The dealership quoted you $1,000 to replace your headlights. Meanwhile, a mechanic in Munich spent just $6.28 to make a 16-year-old set of yellowed headlights look brand new again. Today, you are going to find out exactly how he did it. You'd be awesome if you like this video. 1. The soda can in the garage. You open a can of Coca-Cola, pour it over a set of headlights that have turned yellow after years of facing the elements, and sit around waiting for a full hour because you believe the acid in the soda will eat away the oxidation. The measured result on an older model Mazda 3 after soaking is that the headlight clarity only improved from 61% to 65%. 4%. 1 hour sitting out in a hot garage, a wasted can of Coke, and a set of headlights that look almost identical to when you started. The concentration of phosphoric acid in Coca-Cola is far too low to handle anything beyond the surface road grime and dirt sitting on top. Meanwhile, what makes headlights foggy is not dirt, but an oxidation process occurring inside the molecular structure of the polycarbonate plastic after years of continuous UV exposure. You are trying to fight a molecular-level chemical reaction with a beverage, and the only outcome is wasted time while the headlights remain cloudy. The part that makes many people still believe in this trick is that after wiping the Coke away and drying it off, the lens surface looks a bit brighter under daytime sunlight. But that 4% improvement is completely meaningless when you drive at night and need your headlights to cut through 200 feet of darkness ahead. At that moment, you will realize your visibility is no different than before you poured the can of Coke. And while you are sitting out in the garage waiting for the Coke to soak in, the headlights continue to be ruined deeper by UV rays every day because you have not treated them properly. 2. The bottle of oil used car dealers keep secret. Before a scheduled viewing with a potential buyer, professional used car dealers in the US have a trick they pass around but never tell the buyer. They spray WD-40 onto the headlights, wipe them down with a dry towel, and within seconds, the cloudy lenses suddenly look so bright and shiny that the car shopper never suspects a thing. On a Honda Accord, the clarity instantly jumps from 28% to 71%, enough to make anyone looking at it think the headlights are still in great shape. But after 22 hours to 3 days, the entire layer of oil evaporates and the headlights return to their exact original foggy state, or even look worse than before. WD-40 does not restore anything. It only temporarily fills millions of microscopic cracks on the degraded plastic surface, creating a fake, smooth layer that lets light pass through more easily for a few short days. Once the oil completely evaporates, the exposed cracks reappear, and the headlights get just as cloudy as they used to be. Even worse, the leftover oil residue on the surface acts like a sticky glue that attracts road dust, making the headlights dirtier and cloudier after about a week than they were before the spray. If you were looking at a used car and the headlights look unusually shiny for the vehicle's actual age, run your finger gently across the lens surface before deciding on anything. A greasy feel or a faint smell of mineral oil is a sign that someone just did a cosmetic cover-up to make you pull out your wallet without knowing you are buying a set of headlights that will fog up again by next week. The next method costs less than a can of Coke, is many times more effective, and you already have it in your house right now. 3. The white powder in your kitchen. Almost every household in America has a box of baking soda in the kitchen cabinet. When you mix it with water into a thick paste and scrub it onto the headlight surface, the results this time are real. Not a temporary illusion like WD-40, or completely useless like Coca-Cola. After 10 minutes of steady scrubbing, the headlights increase from 52% to 63% clarity, an improvement you notice right away with the naked eye when you step back to look. Baking soda belongs to a class of very mild abrasives, so when scrubbed onto the headlights, it shaves away the thinnest, outermost layer of oxidation without scratching the underlying plastic. That is the good news. The bad news is that 63% is still below the threshold that automotive lighting experts rate as safe enough for night driving. After 2 to 3 weeks, the yellow oxidation slowly crawls right back to where it was because baking soda is too mild to grind down into the plastic structure ruined deeply by UV rays over many years. If your headlights have already turned a heavy yellowish orange, both your arms will wear out before you see any significant difference. But baking soda has one use that very few people utilize properly. If your car headlights are just starting to cloud over and have not turned completely yellow yet, scrubbing them with baking soda once a month is the cheapest preventative maintenance method to keep the headlights from oxidizing further while you do not have the time for a permanent fix. A box costs less than $1, lasts for dozens of uses, and will not damage the lens surface. Compared to the $1,000 the dealership demands to replace the entire headlight assembly, that white powder in your kitchen is quietly saving you an amount of money that few people think about. 4. Bug spray on headlights. Out of all the viral headlight restoration methods online, this one gives the most spectacular initial result and also causes the heaviest damage. You spray a bug repellent containing DEET onto a Nissan Altima's headlights, wipe it once, and within 2 minutes, the meter jumps from 41% to 82% clarity. That result is enough for anyone to make a video, post it online, and claim it is the perfect solution for just a few dollars. But DEET is designed to dissolve the outer shells of insects, and the polycarbonate plastic on headlights is exactly the type of material DEET corrodes. When you spray it on, this chemical does not clean the oxidation. It quietly destroys the underlying plastic along with the factory protective coating. 2 weeks later, the Altima's headlight surface begins to develop spreading hairline cracks. It turns much cloudier than before the spray. The owner has to spend $240, not to restore the headlights, but to fix the damage caused by the bug spray itself. Every video using this trick stops at the 2-minute mark. No one shows the headlights cracking 2 weeks later. And here is the worst part. The $240 spent on that Altima was just the initial fix. Once DEET corrodes the plastic, the surface permanently loses its ability to resist sunlight. The next method is the first one on this list that is actually safe for headlights, and it costs pennies compared to a bottle of bug spray. 5. The $1 kitchen sponge. $1 and 8 minutes. That is all it takes to bring a Hyundai Elantra's headlights from 68% to 84% clarity without scratching or damaging the plastic surface. Out of the 4 previous methods, none achieved both at the same time. A magic eraser is made of melamine foam, a material with millions of microscopic crystals that act like sandpaper on a level the naked eye cannot see. When you scrub the headlight, these crystals shave away the top layer of oxidation in a way baking soda is too weak to do, yet gently enough that the plastic underneath remains untouched. Many detailers in the US keep this sponge in their toolbox as a quick maintenance tool between professional restorations. They scrub the lenses every 2 to 3 months to keep them in acceptable condition. The limit of this sponge lies in its softness. On heavily oxidized headlights that have turned yellowish-orange, the oxidation layer is so thick that the melamine foam crumbles before grinding through it. You could use an entire 3-pack and still see no major improvement. For headlights that are just starting to cloud over, this is the most cost-effective option per dollar spent. But once the headlights pass that stage, the sponge no longer has the strength to handle it. 6. The $45 kit sold all over Amazon. Thousands of 5-star reviews, professional packaging, step-by-step visual instructions, and a promise of like-new headlights in 30 minutes right on the box. Headlight restoration kits, priced from $25 to $45 on Amazon, look like the ultimate answer you need. Inside, you get progressively finer grits of wet sandpaper, a polishing compound, and a packet of UV clear coat. Following the instructions on a Honda Civic, the headlights reached 73% clarity. Honestly, higher than any kitchen ingredient you have seen. Then 3 months pass. The headlights cloud over almost completely. You are left with 2 choices. Spend another $45 on a new kit, or accept living with foggy headlights. The sandpaper and polishing compound in the kit work just fine. The part that betrays you is the included UV clear coat packet. The manufacturers know exactly that the clear coat layer is too thin and will peel off after 90 days. But if they made it good enough to last 2 to 3 years, you would never need to buy a second kit. Looking back at your Amazon invoices after a year of buying them over and over, the total amount you spend on these kits is more than what it costs to hire a professional to fix it right once and for all. 7. The steel roll doors often use. Superfine 0000 steel wool is something many mechanics trust for polishing metal. And from there, they assume it does the same thing on headlights. Wrong. To the naked eye, the lens looks much cleaner after scrubbing, but when measured with a meter, the actual clarity drops by about 6% compared to before you touched it. The headlights look better during the day, but shine weaker at night. The reason lies in the difference between metal and plastic. Metal is hard enough to withstand fine steel fibers without getting deeply grooved. Headlight plastic is much softer. Every time you drag that steel wool across, millions of microscopic scratches are carved into the surface. At night, instead of projecting straight ahead, the light scatters in all directions through this dense network of scratches. This dims the road for you and blinds oncoming drivers. Dangerous for both sides. A detailer in Cleveland had to pay a customer $680 after using this method on a Lexus. The headlight surface was damaged beyond the point of being saved by polishing and required full replacements. Scratches from steel wool are permanently carved into the plastic structure. No method can reverse them. The next method combines two cooking ingredients you already have in your kitchen, costing less than $2 total. The chemical reaction between them creates an effect many times stronger than using either one alone. 8. The sour formula from the kitchen. Squeezing half a fresh lemon into baking soda creates a fizzing reaction everyone has seen in the kitchen. But few people think about taking that mixture out to the garage to scrub onto a headlight. On a set of Toyota Corolla headlights that had been foggy for years, 15 minutes of steady scrubbing with this mixture boosted clarity by nearly 60% from where it started, far outpacing any single kitchen ingredient you have seen. Baking soda alone only hits 63% because it only grinds away the outermost layer and stops. Lemon completely changes the game. Citric acid does not grind. It seeps into the microscopic cracks on the plastic surface and dissolves the deeply embedded oxidation, the part baking soda particles can never reach. One cuts from the outside in, the other breaks down from the inside out. When both work simultaneously on the same surface, the combined synergy far exceeds the sum of each alone. The total cost is under $2, 20 times cheaper than the $45 Amazon kit, yet the measured result is higher. The only downside is that after 5 to 9 weeks, the headlights will gradually cloud over again if you do not apply a protective coating right after scrubbing. Details on that coating will appear in the following sections. 9. The brass polish bottle. If you have ever seen your relatives clean their brassware with a cloudy liquid and everything becomes shiny after a few minutes, that bottle is most likely Brasso. And here's what most car owners do not know. The faded polycarbonate plastic on headlights and the greenish tarnish on brass surfaces share the exact same root cause: surface oxidation. Because of this identical chemical nature, a solution that removes oxidation on brass can also handle the oxidation layer on headlight plastic. Brasso contains nanoabrasives that are much finer than baking soda or melamine foam. Combined with a low-concentration ammonia solvent, it can dissolve the plastic layer ruined by UV rays without requiring heavy scrubbing pressure. This combination of nanoabrasion and chemical dissolving gives results that toothpaste would need 15 to 20 minutes to achieve, while Brasso only takes about 5 minutes to bring the headlights up to 85% to 90% clarity. The process is simple. Just apply masking tape around the headlight edges to protect the car paint, pour Brasso onto a thick microfiber towel, and wipe vertically or horizontally. The towel will turn yellowish-brown immediately as the oxidation layer is pulled off the surface. The most critical step is to wipe off any excess solution right away. Absolutely never let Brasso dry on its own on the headlights, because the ammonia solvent will damage the underlying plastic if it soaks in for too long. After that, apply a protective wax to lock in the results. 10. The compound body shops keep hidden. If you ask any detailer what they use to restore headlights for customers, the most common answer is rubbing compound. This is a paint polishing compound that every shop has, but no shop wants you to know its real price. They charge you $80 to $150 for a pair of headlights, while a bottle of Meguiar's Ultimate Compound costs $10 at any auto parts store. And one bottle can be used on dozens of cars. The usage is not complicated at all. Pour a little bit onto a microfiber towel and scrub the headlight surface evenly for about 12 minutes. There is no spectacular fizzing reaction, no instant 2-second transformation to film for TikTok. There is only a headlight getting gradually brighter until the surface is so smooth it almost reflects an image. The clarity after completion reaches over 90%, and the results last for more than 9 months without needing a redo. If you want to push it even higher, Novus 2, a solution originally developed from aircraft windshield cleaning technology, can bring that number up to 98%. Because 12 minutes of hand scrubbing has nothing exciting to film, this method is practically invisible on social media. Meanwhile, bug spray and Coca-Cola, with their instant effects, rake in millions of views. Social media rewards the spectacular, not the effective. 11. The wet sandpaper sheets. 3 sheets of wet sandpaper, a bucket of clean water, and about 30 minutes. The materials sound simple, but this is exactly the core process that every professional headlight restoration shop in the US applies every day. You start with 1000 grit sandpaper to grind away the thickest oxidation layer. Switch to 2000 grit to erase the scratches left by the previous layer, and finish with 3000 grit to bring the surface to a nearly completely flat state before the final polish. A set of headlights on a Chevy Silverado came into the shop with a cloudy orange color and only 23% clarity. After completing the full 3-step process, that number jumped to 96% and the brightness doubled. No DIY method in this video can touch that threshold. But that impressive result itself causes many people to make a serious mistake. The headlights look so bright and beautiful that they assume the job is done and pack up their tools, without applying any protective top coat. 2 to 3 months later, the headlights oxidize back at a faster rate than before. This is because sandpaper does not just grind away the oxidation, it also strips off the entire factory clear coat, leaving the bare plastic directly exposed to daily sunlight with nothing to shield it. Wet sanding without a protective coating immediately afterward is like polishing a hardwood floor and then letting people stomp on it with dirty shoes every day. Wet sanding brings headlights up to 96%, but 92% of DIYers fail after 6 months because they skip the step you are about to see. 12. The $6 trick from a Munich garage. A 16-year-old Mercedes sits in a Munich garage with headlights at just 26% clarity. Instead of going to a shop, the owner handles it himself using white, silica-based toothpaste. He scrubs evenly for 6 minutes until the microfiber towel turns cloudy yellow as the oxidation layer is pulled off the plastic. After rinsing and drying, he applies the first coat of carnauba wax to the lens and waits 12 minutes. Most people stop here, but he immediately applies a second coat because no matter how evenly the first layer covers, it still leaves microscopic gaps. It is the second coat that seals everything completely. On an Audi A4 using the same process, the headlights jump from 26% to 95%. After 12 months, they still hold at 91%. After 18 months, they are at 87%. The Mercedes headlights remain clear after 19 months, on the condition that the owner spends 6 minutes re-waxing them every 10 weeks. The total cost is $6. Lasting 8 times longer than a $45 Amazon kit. This method is for you if you enjoy taking care of your car yourself and do not mind spending 6 minutes every 10 weeks to maintain results using natural ingredients. But if you want a one-and-done solution without periodic waxing, the next method fits better. Every method so far required hand scrubbing or wiping. The next method only needs you to spray and let it dry, and the headlight is instantly protected. 13. The invisible armor against UV rays. 92% of DIY headlight restorers fail after 6 months because they skip exactly one step at the end of the process. It is not the sanding, and it is not the polishing. It is the UV blocking clear coat after everything is done. A detailing shop owner in Texas tracked 2 years of data and found that 63% of customers returned complaining about their headlights fogging up again, even though the shop's sanding technique was flawless. He added a clear coat step, and the complaint rate dropped to 4%. His Google reviews jumped from 3.8 to 4.9 stars. Unlike the carnauba wax mentioned earlier that needs a redo every 10 weeks, clear coat is applied once and maintains its effectiveness without you touching it again until the coating reaches the end of its lifespan after about a year. You shake a can of Meguiar's Keep Clear headlight coating well, hold it 6 to 8 inches away from the lens surface, and spray 2 to 3 thin coats, waiting 5 minutes between each coat. The spray can costs about $10 and covers 8 to 10 pairs of headlights, which breaks down to just over $1 per vehicle. Leaving a beautifully restored headlight without a protective coating is like finishing a new paint job on a house and opening all the doors in the middle of a hurricane. How long it takes before you have to paint again is just a matter of time. 14. The boiling cup that turns plastic into glass. You point a hot steam nozzle about 1 to 2 inches away from the headlight. The vapor hits the foggy plastic surface. Right there, before your eyes, the plastic slowly turns crystal clear, as if an invisible hand is wiping away a layer of heavy mist. Wherever the nozzle moves, clarity follows. No rubbing, no buffing, no compounding. The plastic cleans itself. An acetone polymer solution is boiled inside a specialized heating cup and turns into vapor. When the vapor touches the polycarbonate surface, it slightly melts the scratched and oxidized outermost layer. As it cools, the plastic restructures itself into a completely flat, brand new surface, hitting 99% clarity. Before steaming, you need to wet sand from 800 up to 3000 grit. Then, the vapor heat does the rest of the work. The results last for 1 to 2 years. Acetone belongs to a class of highly flammable solvents, and its vapor causes dizziness if inhaled in enclosed spaces. Therefore, you must work in a well-ventilated area, stay away from fire sources, and wear a respirator with organic vapor filters. That barrier is why this method is not widely popular with DIYers. But if you follow the safety rules correctly, none of the 15 methods on this list offer a higher success rate with less hand labor. The next film protects car paint from rock chips rather than headlights. But when applied to headlights, it blocks 100% of UV rays in a way no chemical coating can match. 15. The 5-year shield you set and forget. After 14 methods involving all kinds of compounds, waxes, heat, and clear coats, the final method solves the problem in a completely different way. Stick a transparent piece of film onto the headlight and walk away. PPF, short for Paint Protection Film, was originally created to shield highway vehicles from rock chips and bugs on the paint. But when applied to headlights, it becomes something no chemical coating can compete with. After restoring the headlights using any method mentioned in this video, you buy a pre-cut UV-blocking PPF film designed for your car model. Mix a bottle of water with a few drops of baby shampoo, spray it onto the surface, place the film down, and use a rubber squeegee to push out all the water bubbles. 15 minutes for a pair of headlights. No specialized tools or experience needed. Once you finish squeegeeing, the film lies perfectly flat on the lens. You have just installed a physical layer of armor that blocks 100% of UV rays and deflects rock chips, sand dust, and high-speed bug splats. The biggest difference compared to all previous methods is that you do not need to set maintenance reminders, buy more wax or coatings every few months, or spend 6 minutes re-waxing every 10 weeks. High-quality PPF protects headlights for 3 to 5 years. If you divide the total cost by the years of use, this is the cheapest method out of all 15 options you just watched, because you pay once and forget about your headlights until the day you sell the car. Exactly how cloudy your headlights are right now is something you know better than anyone else. But there is one thing most car owners do not realize until it is too late. Headlights do not fog up overnight. They fade day by day so slowly that your eyes adjust and stop noticing the difference. Then, on a rainy night, you suddenly realize you can barely see anything ahead. At that point, $6 or $10 is no longer a matter of money. It is a matter of whether you make it home safely or not. Over 90% of car owners are wasting money every month on things they could completely handle themselves for just a few bucks. From bad odors and scratches to interior cleaning, garages and detailing shops make money off these exact minor issues. But they will never tell you how to do it cheaper. You'd be awesome if you like this video. 1. Lip balm fixes squeaky window glass. Just $2 for a tube of chapstick instead of wasting up to $400 taking it to a shop to replace the window regulator or motor. Last week, a customer drove a 2014 Camry into the shop, telling me he was just quoted about $380 by an outside shop to replace the driver's side window regulator because the glass squeaked horribly every time it rolled up or down. But when checking it, the regulator was still running fine, and the motor had no issues at all. It was just that the thin felt lining inside the rubber weather stripping running along the window frame had dried out and worn down over time, causing the glass surface to stick tightly to the rubber and generate high friction every time it slid up or down. If you run into such a situation, you just need to take the tube of chapstick and rub it inside the rubber channel, and roll the window up and down 4 or 5 times, and the squeak disappears right on the second roll. The beeswax in the lip balm withstands high heat, so it won't melt into a mess like grease or oil. Plus, it resists water well and is completely safe for rubber since it is originally designed to be applied to human skin. Classic car clubs in the US and the mechanical forum Bob is the Oil Guy have used this trick for years on older car models where the rubber tracks start to dry out because lip balm sticks around longer than regular silicone spray, which evaporates quickly after a few car washes. So next time your car glass starts to squeak, before listening to any shop quoting you to replace the regulator or motor, try rubbing that $2 tube of lip balm into the rubber tracks first. Because 90% of the time, the problem lies right there, not in the regulator. 2. Hand sanitizer opens frozen door locks/wiper blades. On winter mornings in northern states, door locks freeze solid so you can't even put the key in. Or the wiper blades get stuck tightly to the glass by a layer of ice, which, if you force the switch on at this time, the motor burns out immediately, wasting $200 to $350 to replace the wiper motor. Many people use hot water to pour over the glass to break the ice quickly, but this causes thermal shock that cracks the windshield, and replacing a new glass costs another $300 to $1,000. Meanwhile, the solution is just a small bottle of hand sanitizer costing less than $1. You just need to drop a few drops of the hand sanitizer gel directly onto the frozen spot. Its main ingredient is alcohol up to 70% concentration, and alcohol has a freezing point below -114 degrees Celsius. So when it contacts the ice layer, it lowers the freezing point of water instantly, and the ice melts within a few seconds. The gel form clings to surfaces better than liquid alcohol, so it won't run off before it can take effect. You can apply it to the tip of the key and then insert it into the frozen lock cylinder, or drop it directly onto the wiper blade stuck tightly to the glass. This is not a word-of-mouth rumor. The American Automobile Association, AAA, has officially included this method in their manuals, instructing drivers on how to handle winter emergencies in North America. The next tip is a feature built into your car that automatically honks when the tires are properly inflated, a feature most car owners are unaware they have. 3. Tire fill alert by horn. The car you are driving might already have a built-in feature to automatically honk the horn when the tire is filled with enough pressure without you ever knowing, even though that feature has been in the car since the day you bought it home. It is called Easy Fill Tire Alert, and how to activate it is very simple. Turn the key to the on position, but do not start the engine, or press the start button twice without stepping on the brake, then start pumping the tire as usual. When the tire reaches the exact standard pressure specified by the manufacturer, the car will automatically honk a short horn to let you know it is enough. If overpumped, the car honks the horn again, along with flashing the hazard lights to warn of overinflation. No need to pump while pulling the chuck out to measure and then snapping it back in to pump again 3 or 4 times like before. And no need to trust those gauges at gas stations that get tossed around and abused all day so the numbers shown are inaccurate. This feature is extremely famous on Nissan and Infiniti models, and is also on some newer GM vehicles like Chevrolet and GMC and some Ford models. Underinflated tires increase road friction, causing rapid wear and wasting gas. Overinflated tires reduce the contact area, causing the car to lose grip during sudden braking. Both waste money and are dangerous just because of pumping incorrect pressure. You should try it right on your next tire inflation to see if your car has this feature, because it helps pump with absolute accuracy completely for free without needing to buy a separate gauge. 4. Shaving cream washes cloth seats. $1.50 for a can of Barbasol shaving cream cleans stains on car cloth seats that an $18 specialized cleaning solution bottle might not even do. And it is 50 times cheaper than bringing it to a detailing shop to wash seats at $80 to $150 each time. Not the gel type, it must be the old school fluffy white foam shaving cream. The cheaper, the better. Spray directly onto the stain on the fabric seat. Wait about 5 minutes and then wipe clean with a damp microfiber towel. Coffee stains, long-standing sweat stains, or spilled baby milk are all lifted completely clean. The reason it is so effective is that shaving cream contains mild surface active agents called surfactants, the same group of detergents found in carpet shampoo but in foam form. So it sits on the fabric surface and lifts the stain up instead of soaking down into the seat cushion foam underneath. This is the key difference compared to liquid-type cleaners. You should note that with heavy grease stains or stains that have deeply set for many months, shaving cream is not strong enough. Only then will you need a specialized cleaning solution or to bring it to a shop. The next tip uses an item that every household already has available to completely replace car air fresheners, 10 times cheaper, yet safer for both your car and your lungs. 5. Use wooden clips and essential oils instead of car air fresheners. Having had to replace dozens of AC vent assemblies that melted plastic and became brittle and cracked just because car owners clipped cheap air fresheners into the vents for a long time without knowing the chemicals inside were corroding the plastic right under the clip. Those 4 Dollar Tree-shaped air fresheners or vent clips filling gas station shelves mostly contain harsh chemical solvents that should not be inside a car. And a female customer had a vent clip bottle leak down the dashboard, leaving a permanent stain on the vinyl surface, right when she was about to trade in the car. So that stain directly affected the car's value. To fix this mistake, you just need to buy a pack of old-school, plain wooden clothespins at the dollar store, drop 3 to 5 drops of any essential oil onto the wood body, then clip it onto the AC vent blade and turn the fan on. The wood will absorb the essential oil slowly. The airflow carries the scent evenly throughout the cabin, and the smell lasts for about 2 weeks before needing a refill. The total cost is about $2 for a pack of 50 wooden clips, and $8 for an essential oil bottle usable for half a year. No plastic corroding chemicals, no stickiness, and no strange substances sitting a foot from your face during your daily commute. Just remember not to let pure essential oil drop directly onto the dashboard plastic surface, because concentrated essential oil can stain plastic upon direct contact. Always drop it onto the wood first before clipping it into the car. 6. Coffee grounds deodorize cars for free. Most types of deodorizing cans and scent pouches sold at part stores for up to $10 only use a pleasant scent to overpower the foul odor. So when the fragrance runs out, the musty smell returns immediately because the source of the odor remains intact. And replacing them constantly every 2 or 3 weeks costs dozens of dollars each year. But when you use coffee grounds, the nitrogen in coffee has the ability to absorb carbon and neutralize odor-causing molecules instead of just masking them. So it will help you eliminate foul odors from the root, not hide them. You take a small amount of coffee grounds into a clean old sock or a small open-top container and place it under the seat or in the cup holder overnight. The next morning, the musty smell will be noticeably reduced. Replacing it with fresh grounds once every 2 weeks is enough to keep the car cabin odor-free without costing a single dime. Because this is what you throw away every morning after brewing coffee. You need to remember the coffee grounds must be completely dried before putting them into the car. Spread them on a tray to sun-dry or put them in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes until bone dry and no longer clumping. Because if you put damp grounds into the car, the coffee grounds themselves will mold within 2 to 3 days and create a heavier, foul odor. The first 6 tips really help you save money. But now, moving on to the group of hidden features on your car that you are wasting money on. 7. Rotate the steering wheel 180 degrees when parking in the sun. The steering wheel surface temperature under direct sunlight can reach up to 150 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to cause mild skin burns if gripped tightly. And over time, UV rays constantly shining on the upper steering wheel section also fade the color and crack the steering wheel leather wrap much faster than the shaded lower section. Using a windshield sunshade only reduces a part of it, because the sun still shines diagonally onto the upper steering wheel portion. The way to handle it only requires that, before stepping out of the car, you rotate the steering wheel inversely 180 degrees, so the part your hands usually grip turns downward, sitting in the shaded area covered by the dashboard itself. When returning to the car, the steering wheel part you need to grip to drive away is already significantly cooler than the upper section exposed to direct sun. You will incur no cost and do not need to buy any additional sunshade, taking exactly 2 seconds each time you park, but saving both your hands and the steering wheel's leather wrap throughout the summer. 8. Wipe glass Cobra S style without streaks. Your car glass is wiped but always leaves streaks even though you used good glass cleaner. And whenever driving at night, oncoming headlights shine in and you see a series of smeared swirl marks on the glass, making visibility drop clearly. The problem lies not in the glass cleaner, but in the way your hand moves. When wiping in circles, you are gathering dirt and grease from one point, then smearing it back onto the exact spot you just wiped, creating swirl marks that keep repeating across the entire glass surface, which are invisible during the day, but all appear at night. The correct technique that professional detailers call the Cobra wipe is wiping in a continuous S shape from top to bottom and left to right, each wipe overlapping the previous one by about 1/3 of the towel. This wiping method gathers all dirt in one single direction instead of scattering it back and forth. And when reaching the glass edge, the dirt has been pushed completely out. Use 2 microfiber towels, one damp towel to clean the surface first, then one dry towel to wipe again, following the exact S shape to clear all water. Another small tip is to always wipe glass in the shade or inside the garage, because if wiped under harsh sunlight, the glass cleaner evaporates too fast and leaves streaks before you can wipe it dry. 9. Built-in anti-theft mechanical steering wheel lock. A customer brought his F-150 into the shop and said thieves broke in at night, picked the door lock, and hot-wired the engine, but couldn't drive away because the steering wheel locked up tight. He didn't get why until I explained his truck saved itself with a decades-old mechanical feature that accidentally activates every night when turning off the engine and pulling the key. Every car with a mechanical ignition has a very thick steel latch inside the steering column called a steering column lock. It locks the wheel solid when you pull the key out and turn the wheel slightly left or right until you hear a click. Once this latch locks, even if thieves hotwire the engine, they can't steer because the steel latch blocks the steering column. They're forced to give up or use massive force to break the latch, which most petty thieves lack the tools and time to do. To activate it, just turn off the engine, pull the key, and spin the wheel slightly to one side until you hear it lock. It takes 1 second each time you park for a free layer of protection. Tons of drivers go years without knowing their car has this, while steering wheel locks sold at parts stores cost $25 to $60. This built-in feature is tougher because it locks the column from the inside, not the outside rim, which thieves can saw through. The next tip will stop someone from yanking your door open at a red light. Your car already has this capability, but the dealer didn't turn it on at delivery. 10. Hidden auto lock feature. Most newer cars from 2015 up have a feature that automatically locks all doors when you start driving and hit a certain speed, usually around 15 miles per hour, and unlocks when you turn off the engine or shift into park. This feature is crucial for safety because it prevents someone from yanking your door open at a red light in unsafe areas, or kids in the back from accidentally opening the door while moving. The issue is many cars ship with this feature turned off by default, and dealers almost never show customers how to turn it on at delivery. Activating it depends on the make and model. On some Toyotas and Hondas, you can turn it on by holding the lock button on the driver's door for 3 to 5 seconds until you hear a confirmation beep. Every model has a different method, so the best advice is to open your owner's manual and look for the door lock settings section because that book is written specifically for your exact ride, not general advice. If you can't find the paper manual in the glove box, go to Google and type your car's exact year, make, and model, followed by auto lock setting to find it instantly. The feature is completely free. Just turn it on once and the car will lock the doors every time you drive from then on without you needing to remember to press the button. 11. Hidden storage under the back seat. If you drive a pickup truck like a Ford F-150, Chevy Silverado, Ram 1500, or a full-size SUV, you likely have a pretty spacious hidden storage compartment under your rear seat cushion that you've never opened. On F-150 and Silverado models, Ford and Chevy designed this compartment to hide the jack, tire toolkit, and sometimes a first aid kit. But many owners don't know because the seat cushion sits flat, looking like nothing is underneath. Opening it is simple. Just pull the rear seat cushion forward and up. It will flip or lift to reveal the storage space beneath. Some cars have latches on the front of the cushion that you need to press or pull before lifting. This compartment is handy for hiding valuables when parking in public, because thieves peering through broken glass won't see anything on the back seat and will move on while your gear sits safely under the cushion. It's also a great spot to keep a power bank, rain jacket, tow strap, or anything you want ready in the car, without taking up space on the floor or in the trunk. Just note, this feature is mostly on pickup trucks, full-size SUVs, or some minivans. Standard town sedans barely have it because the space under the rear seat on sedans is where the fuel tank or suspension goes, leaving no room for a storage bin. If you're driving a pickup or big SUV, go out and try lifting the back seat cushion today, because who knows? You might find stuff the previous owner forgot in there from way back. 12. Vaseline hides car paint scratches fast. $0 for a little Vaseline already in the house versus $300 to $800 to repaint a panel if you leave a scratch too long without proper care. Rubbing Vaseline on light scratches makes them nearly disappear instantly because the petroleum jelly fills the scratch groove and shines the surface, making it unnoticeable to the naked eye. This is an extremely useful trick when you need the car looking clean right away, like before taking it in for a trade-in or letting someone borrow it and you don't want them seeing the scratch. But Vaseline is just a Band-Aid, not a cure. One rainstorm or car wash washes it clean and the scratch reappears exactly as before. The important thing to understand is when you apply Vaseline and think you're done, you are wasting the golden window to truly save the paint. Light scratches that only affect the outer clear coat can be completely polished out if handled within the first few days, and a bottle of Meguiar's Scratch X costing around $10 is enough to DIY at home without going to a shop. But every day you delay is another day rainwater, dirt, and UV rays eat deep into the unprotected scratch. Once the scratch reaches the base coat below, polishing won't save it. Then, your only option is repainting that panel, costing $300 to $800 depending on the spot. So using Vaseline to hide it temporarily for a day or two is totally fine. But use that time to buy a bottle of polish and fix it for good. Don't let it go week after week and forget about it, because the price to pay later will be many times higher. 13. Magic Eraser cleans car interior stains. $4 for a box of 4 Magic Erasers cleans scuff marks from shoes, ink stains, and tar on car interior plastic. So clean, you won't believe it. 4 to 5 times cheaper than a $15 to $20 specialized interior cleaning solution bottle. And the effectiveness on textured hard plastic is even better. I've used Magic Erasers to completely clean all black shoe scuffs on door sills and lower door panels for cars about to be resold. It took only 10 minutes, but the interior looked clean as new, and car buyers looking at it were instantly impressed and didn't haggle. But before holding this sponge and scrubbing all over the car, you must understand that Magic Eraser is actually microscopic melamine foam fibers as hard as glass. When scrubbed on a surface, it works exactly like ultra fine sandpaper, wearing away an extremely thin surface layer so the stain disappears with it, rather than using cleaning chemicals. On hard plastic with grains or textured surfaces like the lower part of car doors, door sills, or storage bins, it is completely safe and extremely effective. But if scrubbed on shiny piano black plastic, matte painted plastic surfaces, or real leather seats, the melamine layer will grind away the shiny protective coating or the surface color layer. The safe way to use it is only on textured hard plastic. Dampen the sponge with a little water, scrub very gently, and wipe with a microfiber towel as you go to check before scrubbing more. Absolutely do not scrub on any shiny or leather surface in the car. Up next are 2 tips that whoever told you also didn't know they were giving bad advice, because the instant results look very convincing, but nobody tells you the long-term consequences. 14. Don't use oranges and baking soda to polish headlights. This tip looks so effective that anyone who does it records a video to show off immediately. Cutting an orange in half, dipping it in baking soda, and scrubbing it on yellowed headlights, and the lights brighten up instantly, looking like they were just replaced. The problem is, the person showing you this tip also doesn't know they're giving bad advice, because the instant results are too convincing. But nobody records a follow-up video after 2 or 3 months to show you what happens next. Here's the issue happening inside that the naked eye cannot see. Every headlight assembly from the factory is pre-coated with a UV protective layer, which is a clear coat tasked with stopping ultraviolet rays from destroying the polycarbonate plastic underneath. When you scrub an orange with baking soda on the light, the citric acid in the orange combined with the abrasives of the baking soda not only strips the yellow, oxidized outer layer, but also simultaneously grinds away the protective UV coating. And once that coating is gone, it is gone forever. Within the next 2 to 3 months, the sun shines directly onto the bare, unprotected plastic layer, and the headlights turn yellow again, twice as bad as before. By then, no matter how you scrub, it cannot be saved, and replacing a new headlight lens costs $150 to $300 per side. You should spend $15 to $25 to buy a headlight restoration kit from 3M or Sylvania at any parts store. The kit includes sandpaper of multiple fine grades to sand step by step, polishing cream, and most importantly, a UV clear coat spray to protect the headlight's surface again after polishing. That UV coating is the whole difference between a fix that lasts only 2 months before breaking again and a fix that lasts 2 years. The orange in your kitchen costs $1, but the real price is up to $300 to replace the headlights after a few months. 15. Don't rub apples on the windshield. A customer brought her car into the shop because she couldn't see the road clearly when driving at night in the rain. Checking it, the glass was not cracked or scratched, but when shining a light sideways across the surface, there was a thin, sticky film covering the entire glass that the naked eye looking straight ahead couldn't notice. Asking about it, I found out she was told by an acquaintance to rub apples on the windshield to clean off traffic film, and she had been doing it for weeks. True, the malic acid in apples can cut through a part of the oil grime on the glass, but apple juice is full of natural sugar, and when rubbed all over the windshield, that entire sugar layer dries into a transparent film. Looking from the outside, the glass looks clean and beautiful, making it seem like a truly great tip. But when running on the road at night and it starts raining, the sugar layer mixes with rainwater, creating a blurry film that scatters light in all directions, turning all oncoming headlights into smeared streaks radiating across your field of vision. And the wiper blades only smear that film all over the glass instead of wiping it clean. On the highway at 60 to 70 miles per hour, losing visibility like that is extremely dangerous. Just 1 or 2 seconds of not seeing the road is enough to cause a severe accident. That customer's car took 20 minutes of wiping with specialized glass cleaner mixed with white vinegar to completely strip the sugar buildup off the glass. If you want the windshield truly clean and water repellent, use a bottle of invisible glass for about $5. Or, if you want the glass to bead water like a lotus leaf, a bottle of Rain-X also costs about $5 to $7. Both clean the glass perfectly without leaving behind anything that can make you lose visibility when driving in the rain at night. These tips don't make your car fancier, but they keep you from paying for things that should only cost a few bucks. Just by knowing the right spot and doing it the right way, you've avoided many unnecessary expenses. And sometimes, saving money isn't about fixing the car, it's about understanding your car. You're paying $200, $500, even over $1,000 for problems that can often be fixed with just a few bucks. From rust and weak batteries to annoying noises, repair shops know exactly what's causing them. But they're not going to tell you, because the moment you learn even one of these tips, you might never go back and pay them again. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Turn off the AC before shutting off the engine. Turning off the AC before shutting off the engine sounds simple, but it's one of those habits that can save you from a lot of issues later without costing anything. About 30 seconds to 1 minute before you park, turn off the AC and let the fan keep running for a bit. That airflow passes through the evaporator and helps remove leftover moisture inside. The key point is that the evaporator always collects moisture during operation. If you shut the engine off while the AC is still running, that moisture stays trapped inside a closed space. Over time, this buildup creates the perfect environment for bad odors to develop. That's why many cars start to smell unpleasant when the AC is turned on, even though the system itself is still working fine. With just this small habit, you can keep the evaporator drier, reduce odors, and minimize the need for AC system cleaning. Services like evaporator cleaning or interior odor removal are not cheap. They can cost a few $100s, even though the root cause often comes from something very minor. On newer vehicles, you don't have to worry about putting extra strain on the engine during startup. The system already manages this automatically. When you start the car, the ECU temporarily cuts off high electrical loads like the AC compressor to prioritize engine startup, then reactivates them once the engine stabilizes. This makes the process smooth without any extra effort from you. What's interesting is that this habit doesn't just prevent odors, it also helps the AC system last longer. When moisture doesn't linger inside, internal components are less affected by a damp environment, which reduces long-term issues. With just a few extra seconds before shutting off the car, you can avoid repair costs that can easily exceed $1,000, costs many people only discover after problems have already started. 2. Removing paint contamination with a clay bar. Your car's paint may look shiny and clean, but if you run your hand lightly over the surface, you'll feel a rough texture. That's caused by embedded contaminants like iron particles, tree sap, or tar stuck to the paint. Regular washing can't fully remove them, which is why a freshly washed car still doesn't feel as smooth as it should. This is where a clay bar comes in. Simply wet the surface with soapy water, then glide the clay bar gently back and forth. At first, it may feel slightly rough, but after a few passes, you'll notice the surface becoming smoother and slicker. Those stubborn contaminants are pulled out of the paint without the need for aggressive scrubbing. The key is in the technique. You don't need to apply pressure, just move steadily and keep the surface lubricated at all times. When the clay becomes dirty, fold it to expose a clean side and keep going. Done properly, the entire car will feel noticeably smoother, something you can feel immediately with your hand. A clay bar kit costs around $15 to $25, but if you take your car to a detailing shop, this step alone can cost anywhere from $150 to $300. Most of that difference is labor, since this is the same step professionals perform before polishing to achieve a flawless finish. There's one very important detail many people overlook. If you drop the clay bar on the ground, you should throw it away immediately. It will pick up tiny grains of sand and debris that you can't see. If you keep using it, you're essentially rubbing those particles across your paint. At that point, you're no longer cleaning, you're actually scratching the surface. With just a few dollars and about 20 to 30 minutes, you can do a process yourself that usually costs several times more at a shop. And more importantly, the difference in how the surface feels afterward is something you'll notice instantly, without needing to look closely. 3. Partial brake fluid replacement method. At first, the partial brake fluid replacement method sounds very convenient. You can do it at home in just a few minutes without removing the wheels or using complicated tools. You open the hood, use a syringe or suction tool to remove the old fluid from the reservoir, then refill it with new fluid. After that, you drive the car for a while so the fluid circulates through the system and repeat the process a few more times. With a cost of only around $8 for a bottle of brake fluid, many people think they've saved hundreds of dollars in labor. But the key issue lies in how brake fluid actually behaves inside the system. Brake fluid is highly hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture over time. As a result, water and contaminants tend to settle in the lowest points of the system, mainly inside the brake calipers near the wheels. This is where the highest heat and pressure occur every time you press the brake pedal. The fluid in the reservoir is only a small, visible portion and doesn't represent the true condition of the entire system. When you only remove and refill fluid from the reservoir, the top portion may look cleaner, but the old fluid down below remains unchanged and continues to circulate. This is why braking feel often doesn't improve much, especially during long drives or heavy braking when heat builds up and the difference becomes more noticeable. On newer vehicles, brake systems are even more complex due to ABS and ESP. Inside, there are multiple valves and narrow passages. If the fluid level drops too low during the process, air can enter the system. At that point, it's no longer something you can fix easily at home. Specialized equipment is needed to activate the ABS pump and properly bleed the air out. A proper brake fluid service at a shop usually costs around $80 to $120. They will bleed fluid from each wheel to ensure the entire system is completely refreshed. Compared to the $8 DIY method, it's more expensive, but in return, you get a braking system that performs consistently and safely under all conditions. This is a system directly tied to your safety on the road. Doing it correctly from the start helps you avoid unnecessary risks, especially in emergency braking situations or at higher speeds. 4. Lubricating door hinges with silicone spray. That squeaking noise when you open and close your car door may seem minor, but it quickly makes the whole vehicle feel worn out. The good news is, in most cases, it's not caused by any serious damage. It usually comes down to moving parts drying out over time. All you need is a can of silicone spray. Spray it directly onto the door hinges and the door check strap, the components that handle stress every time the door opens and closes. Then, open and close the door a few times to let the lubricant spread inside. Almost immediately, the noise disappears, and the door feels smoother and lighter to operate. What makes silicone spray effective is its dry lubrication. After application, it leaves behind a thin film that reduces friction without becoming sticky or attracting dust. Unlike grease or regular oils, which tend to collect dirt and debris over time, silicone keeps the surface cleaner and more stable for longer. A can costs only about $5, but if you take your car to a shop, lubricating these components is often billed as part of a maintenance package, costing anywhere from $30 to $60. In reality, the job takes just a few minutes and requires no complex skills. In the garage, I've seen cars that are only a few years old already starting to squeak and lose that smooth door feel. Many owners assume something needs adjustment or even replacement. But in most cases, a quick spray in the right spots fixes the issue instantly. Afterward, people are often surprised at how the door feels almost like new again. This method isn't just for doors. You can also use it on seat rails, hood hinges, and trunk hinges. Doing this once a year, especially before the rainy season, helps keep these components moving smoothly without sticking or making noise. With one simple step, you can maintain that solid, refined feel of your car without spending extra on unnecessary maintenance. 5. Clearing sunroof drain tubes. Water leaking into the headliner or soaking into the floor isn't always a major problem like many people think. There's a small detail that often determines the whole issue: the sunroof drain system. When it gets clogged, water has nowhere to go and starts backing up into the cabin. The system works in a simple way. Rainwater that enters the sunroof area is directed down through small tubes hidden inside the car body. Each corner has a drain hole. Over time, leaves, dirt, and mud build up and block these openings, causing water to collect on top. All you need to do is open the sunroof and look closely at the corners. You'll see small holes. Use a soft line, like fishing line or trimmer line, and slowly feed it down into each hole. When you feel resistance, push gently and steadily to clear the blockage. There's no need to use force, just go slowly. After finishing, pour a little water into the area. If it drains out underneath the car, the system is fully cleared. The cost for this fix is almost nothing, around $2 for a piece of line. But if you take it to a shop, you could be quoted anywhere from $300 to $600. And if moisture has already affected the interior, you may also have to pay extra for odor removal and mold treatment. The price difference often comes from shops replacing parts instead of checking the real cause. One important detail to remember: do not use high-pressure compressed air to blow into the drain holes. The pressure can disconnect the tubes inside the body. When that happens, water will flow in the wrong direction, and fixing it may require removing the headliner, making the repair much more expensive and complicated. With just a few minutes and a simple step, you can avoid one of the most costly interior-related issues. 6. Fixing a squeaky belt with WD-40. A squealing belt doesn't always mean it needs to be replaced right away, but it often causes people to spend money too quickly without checking first. With one small step, you can figure out exactly where the problem is without taking the car anywhere. When you spray a very light layer of WD-40 onto the rib side of the belt while the engine is running, the noise almost disappears instantly. This doesn't mean the belt is fixed. It's because WD-40 reduces friction, so the squeal goes away. That moment helps you confirm whether the noise is coming from the belt. With a $5 can of WD-40, you can test it yourself on the spot, instead of going to a shop and possibly being told to replace the entire belt system for $100 to $200. The difference is knowing the problem before deciding to spend money. An even simpler method is to spray a small amount of clean water onto the belt while the engine is running. If the noise disappears and then comes back, it's a sign the belt is dry or slightly misaligned. In just a few seconds, you can understand the condition without spending anything. In reality, many people replace the belt just because of a noise, even though the issue may not be serious. Simple checks like this help you avoid unnecessary early replacements, especially when the belt still has usable life left. With just a few dollars and less than a minute, you can evaluate the condition of the belt yourself, instead of relying entirely on outside diagnosis. It's a small tip, but it can save you a significant amount of money every time the car starts making unusual noises. 7. Replacing spark plugs yourself at home. Spark plugs are one of those items that shops love to bundle into maintenance packages. It looks complicated, but in reality, it's something you can do yourself if you know the right steps. And this is where you can save a noticeable amount of money. On most common 4-cylinder engines, the spark plugs are located right on top of the engine. You just remove the plastic cover, unplug each ignition coil, then use a spark plug socket to remove the old plugs and install the new ones. Do them one at a time to avoid mixing positions. The whole process takes about 20 to 30 minutes once you're familiar with it. A set of spark plugs usually cost between $15 and $40 depending on the type. But at a shop, the price can jump to $150 to $300 because of labor and inspection fees. Most of that difference comes from labor, while the job itself isn't very complicated on typical vehicles. One important detail is the tightening torque. You can't just tighten by feel. If it's too loose, combustion pressure can leak, causing poor performance and higher fuel consumption. If it's too tight, you can damage the threads in the cylinder head, which is a costly repair. Using a torque wrench to tighten to the correct specification is the safest approach. On newer vehicles, iridium or platinum spark plugs can last up to 100,000 miles. That means you don't replace them often, but when you do, it's even more worthwhile to do it yourself, because the savings are significant compared to the actual cost of the parts. As long as you understand the location, follow the correct steps, and pay attention to torque, you can handle a maintenance task that many people are still paying several times the actual cost for every time they go to a shop. 8. Maintaining rubber seals with Vaseline. The rubber seals around your car doors are something most people overlook, but they directly affect how well the cabin is sealed and how the doors feel when opening and closing. Over time, the rubber starts to dry out, harden, and even stick slightly to the body in cold or humid conditions. When this happens, many people only notice when the doors no longer close as smoothly as before. The fix is simple and can be done at home. Take a small amount of Vaseline and apply a thin layer along all the rubber seals around the doors, trunk, and even windows. Use your fingers to spread it evenly. No need to apply a thick coat. Once done, you'll notice the seals feel softer and the doors close more smoothly and seal better. A small jar of Vaseline costs around $3, but if the seals deteriorate and need replacement, each door can cost between $200 and $400. This is the kind of expense you can easily avoid with a simple maintenance habit. However, there's one detail many people don't know. Vaseline is petroleum-based, and on some older or lower-quality rubber, long-term use can cause swelling or reduce durability. It doesn't happen in every case, but it's the reason professionals often choose a different solution. In practice, silicone grease or specialized products like Shin-Etsu are more commonly used. They provide a similar protective layer but don't react with rubber, don't melt under heat, and maintain their effectiveness for a longer time. 9. Restoring wiper blades with rubbing alcohol. Wipers that leave streaks or make squeaking noises aren't always worn out. In many cases, the rubber is still good, but the surface is coated with a thin film of oil from road grime, rainwater, and chemicals. This layer prevents the blade from making even contact with the glass. All you need is some rubbing alcohol. Apply it to a clean cloth and wipe along the rubber edge of the wiper blade. After a few passes, you'll notice the cloth turning slightly black. That's the buildup being removed. Then use the same cloth to wipe the windshield surface and remove any oil or residue. After that, the next wipe will feel noticeably smoother, with no streaks or annoying noise. A bottle of alcohol costs around $3, while a new set of wipers can cost about $60. With this simple step, you can extend the life of your wipers for a few more months without replacing them right away. In practice, this works very well when the issue is caused by buildup, not by cracked or hardened rubber. After cleaning, the wipers usually perform well again for about 3 to 6 months, enough to delay replacement. However, don't overdo it. Alcohol can dry out the rubber. If used too often, it can reduce flexibility and cause cracking. Doing it once or twice when you first notice uneven wiping is enough to get extra use before replacing the blades. 10. Replacing engine air filter and cabin air filter yourself. Air filters are among the easiest things to replace on a car, yet many people are paying more than necessary without realizing it. Just open the hood and you'll see a black plastic box. That's where the engine air filter sits. It's usually held in place by a few clips, with no special tools needed. Open the cover, lift out the old filter, place the new one in the correct direction, and close it back up. The whole process takes less than 2 to 3 minutes. The cabin air filter is similar, just located behind the glove box or under the dashboard. Once you've done it once, you can easily replace it yourself anytime. Each filter typically costs around $10 to $20, but at oil change shops, this is often recommended as an add-on service for $40 to $80. The difference is almost entirely labor cost, even though the job itself is extremely simple. In reality, many cars are advised to replace filters earlier than necessary. If you check it yourself and see it's not too dirty or clogged, you can continue using it for a while. This gives you more control instead of following general recommendations. On newer vehicles, especially some European models, the filter housing may use torque screws instead of clips. In that case, you just need the correct screwdriver, nothing complicated. With just a few minutes and minimal cost, you can handle a task that many people are paying several times more for during routine maintenance. 11. Cleaning and shining wheels with WD-40. Wheels are one of the dirtiest parts of the car, but also one that many people ignore because brake dust is hard to remove completely. This dust is actually a mix of fine metal particles and oil that sticks tightly to the surface. Washing with water and soap alone often leaves the wheels looking dull and uneven. With a small amount of WD-40, you can clean this much more easily. Instead of spraying directly, spray it onto a microfiber cloth and wipe evenly across the wheel. After just a few passes, you'll see the brake dust break down and the surface become noticeably cleaner and shinier. Stubborn spots like tar or old grease can also be removed without heavy scrubbing. A can of WD-40 costs around $5, but a detailing service for cleaning and polishing wheels can cost around $100. The difference is that you can achieve almost the same result yourself if you do it properly. WD-40 works well because it's oil-based, which helps break down brake dust and surface contaminants. After cleaning, it leaves a thin film that slows down new buildup, so the wheels stay cleaner a bit longer. One important caution: never spray WD-40 directly onto the wheel. It can get onto the brake rotor or pads, reducing friction and affecting braking performance. The safest method is always to spray onto a cloth first, then wipe. Also, if you often drive on muddy roads, this oily layer can attract dirt more quickly, so use only a light amount. No need to over-apply. 12. Removing rust with Coca-Cola. Small rust spots on a car's body are often ignored because they don't seem serious at first. But if left untreated, they can spread surprisingly fast and make the paint surface look much worse over time. What many people don't realize is that there's a very cheap, temporary fix that can still produce visible results almost immediately. All you need to do is pour a small amount of Coca-Cola directly onto the rusty area and let it sit for about 10 minutes so the liquid can soak in. After that, use aluminum foil or a soft brush to gently scrub the surface. the thin rust layer will start breaking apart, revealing cleaner metal underneath. Wipe the area down with a damp cloth, and you'll notice the difference right away. This works because coke contains phosphoric acid, which is also one of the main ingredients used in many professional rust removal products. For fresh rust that hasn't deeply eaten into the metal yet, the results can be surprisingly effective without needing expensive chemicals. A bottle of Coke costs only around $2, but if you take the vehicle to a body shop, rust repair can easily cost anywhere from $200 to $500, because the process usually involves sanding, body filler, primer, repainting, and applying a protective coating afterward. That price difference becomes huge when you're only dealing with a few small rust spots. However, the most important part comes after the cleaning process. Coke contains both sugar and acid, and if it isn't cleaned off properly, the leftover residue can trap moisture and cause the rust to return even faster. After removing the rust, you should thoroughly rinse the area with water, dry it completely, and touch it up with a protective paint layer afterward. 13. Saving a car battery with baking soda. White or green buildup around battery terminals may look minor, but it's actually one of the most common reasons vehicles fail to start without people realizing why. That powdery residue is caused by leaking battery acid reacting with air over time, slowly reducing the electrical connection between the terminal and the cable. All you need is 1 spoonful of baking soda mixed with a little water. Pour the mixture directly onto the corroded area. You'll immediately notice light bubbling, which is the neutralizing reaction between the alkaline baking soda and the battery acid. Use an old toothbrush to gently scrub around the terminals, and the buildup will dissolve very quickly. After that, simply wipe everything dry. Once the contact surface is cleaned, electrical flow becomes much more stable, and the vehicle often starts normally again. In many real-world situations, a weak start or hard starting issue isn't caused by a dead battery at all. It's simply the corrosion layer reducing electrical contact. Fixing the actual problem can bring the vehicle back to normal immediately without replacing anything. A box of baking soda costs only around $2. But if you take the car to a repair shop, you could easily be quoted $150 to $300 for a complete battery replacement, simply because of a misdiagnosis or an incomplete inspection. Most of that price difference comes from not identifying the true cause of the issue. After cleaning the terminals, you can apply a thin layer of grease to help reduce direct air exposure to the metal. This slows down corrosion from returning and helps keep the electrical connection stable for a much longer time. These tips won't turn you into a professional mechanic, but they're enough to help you avoid wasting money on small problems. Once you understand the real issue and fix the correct part, you can save hundreds, sometimes even thousands of dollars every year. And sometimes, what you really need isn't a major repair. It's simply knowing what's actually worth fixing. Which tip are you going to try first? You might be spending a few $100s every time you go for detailing, while most of what they do are actually very simple tricks that I see all the time in the shop. Cloudy headlights, dull paint, a dirty interior. Many of these can be handled in just a few minutes with things you already have at home. The problem is, no one tells you, and you just keep paying for it. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Use silicone spray to restore door seals. Before letting a shop quote you around $400 to replace all the rubber seals around your doors, try this trick that very few people know, and it only cost about $7. With just a can of silicone spray, you can soften the rubber seals around the doors in a few minutes without removing or replacing anything. The process is very simple. Spray a small amount onto a clean cloth, then wipe evenly around the door edges, the trunk, and even the hood seals. Once you're done, you'll feel the difference almost immediately. The doors will close more solidly, without that dry, stiff feeling. When driving on the highway, wind noise coming into the cabin will also drop noticeably, making the interior much quieter and more comfortable. What many people overlook is that rubber seals don't fail all at once. They degrade gradually over time. When new, the rubber is soft and flexible, so it presses tightly against the door frame and seals everything properly. But after years of use, it starts to dry out, harden, and no longer seal as well as before. I've seen cases with vehicles like the Toyota Camry where, after some time, the car suddenly feels noisier at higher speeds, and in rainy conditions, the floor starts to feel slightly damp. The owner assumes there's a body leak or a serious issue, and even considers replacing the entire set of seals for close to $400. If you pay attention early, the signs show up gradually. First, the door no longer closes as smoothly as before. Then you start hearing wind noise at higher speeds. Eventually, water and dust begin to enter the cabin. Especially during cold seasons in the US, dry rubber can stick to the door frame. When you pull the door open, the seal can tear easily, and at that point, replacement becomes the only option. And it's expensive. Meanwhile, a can of silicone spray costs just a few dollars and lasts a long time. With simple periodic application, you can keep the rubber soft, the doors properly sealed, and the overall driving feel much more consistent. 2. Coca-Cola for cleaning tires. Have you ever noticed that some cars look old even right after a wash? The issue is often not the paint, it's the tires. When the tires turn dull gray or develop brownish stains from long-term buildup, it immediately brings down the overall look of the vehicle, even if the body is still shiny and clean. The frustrating part is that regular washing usually doesn't fix this. You can spray water, use soap, and scrub carefully, but that layer of buildup just stays on the rubber with very little change. Instead of buying specialized products, you can actually use Coca-Cola to handle it. Just pour it directly onto the tire, let it sit for a moment so the buildup softens, then scrub lightly with a brush and rinse it off with water. After that, the rubber surface looks cleaner, the black color becomes more visible again, and the whole car looks sharper and more refreshed. The reason is that the buildup on tires isn't just regular dust. It's a mix of brake dust, oil residue, and road grime that accumulates over time. These stick very firmly, so normal car wash soap can't fully remove them. Coca-Cola has mild acidity, which helps loosen and break that layer away from the rubber surface. A single can costs less than $1, but it can clean all 4 tires in one go. 3. Baby wipes for interior cleaning. Not many people think about it, but baby wipes are actually a very simple way to keep your car interior clean without using any additional products. With just one wipe, you can clean the steering wheel, dashboard, control panel, and door handles. As you wipe, you will clearly see the dirt coming off, especially in areas you touch every day like the steering wheel or the gear shifter. Some cars may look clean on the outside, but one quick wipe will reveal the layer of oil and dust that has built up over time. When this happens, most people take their car to a garage or a detailing shop for interior cleaning. A basic service usually costs around $80. Meanwhile, if you do it yourself, a pack of wipes costing just a few dollars can be used multiple times. Each session only takes a few minutes, but it helps keep the interior consistently clean, instead of letting dirt build up and dealing with it all at once later. You just need to wipe lightly but evenly. That way, oil and dust do not have a chance to accumulate, and the interior always feels clean and comfortable. After cleaning, you will notice the steering wheel is no longer slippery or sticky. It feels more secure to hold, and the entire front area looks cleaner and brighter. 4. WD-40 to refresh windshield wipers. You do not need to replace your wiper blades as soon as they start streaking. Before spending around $50 on a new set, there is a much simpler fix you can do at home. All you need is a little WD-40 and a clean cloth. Wipe along the rubber edge of the wiper blade from one end to the other. Then wipe it again lightly with a dry cloth to remove any excess. After that, the wipers will move more smoothly, without jerking or making noise. More importantly, they will clean the windshield more evenly, without leaving streaks that can be annoying when driving in the rain. The issue usually is not that the wipers are worn out, it is that the rubber has picked up dust, oil, and road residue over time. These contaminants make the surface uneven. At the same time, exposure to sun and weather causes the rubber to dry out and lose flexibility. Just one cleaning pass and you will see a noticeable amount of dirt on the cloth. That is exactly why the wipers were not performing well, even though they still looked fine from the outside. In terms of cost, a new set of wipers is not cheap, while a can of WD-40 costs just a few dollars and lasts a long time. If you clean them early and do it regularly, you can extend their lifespan by several months while keeping performance consistent. 5. Baby oil for a quick shine. It may sound unusual, but baby oil that you normally use for skincare can make your car paint look glossier and deeper in just a few minutes. More importantly, it helps you avoid spending money on services you may not actually need. When people see their car paint starting to look dull, they often think about polishing or applying protective coatings. Those services are not cheap and can easily cost a few $100s per session. But if your goal is simply to improve the appearance quickly, there is a much easier way. Just apply a small amount of baby oil onto a microfiber cloth, then gently wipe it onto a clean and dry painted surface. Work in small sections, then use a dry cloth to lightly wipe again and even out the surface. After that, the paint will appear darker and deeper and reflect light more evenly. The oil fills in very fine surface scratches, the ones you normally do not notice but that make the paint look dull. Once the surface becomes smoother, light reflects better, creating a glossier and newer appearance. In many cases, the paint itself is not actually damaged. It just looks dull because of those tiny scratches that build up over time. When treated properly, you will see a noticeable improvement without needing any heavy work. Compared to spending a few $100s on polishing, a bottle of baby oil costs just a few dollars and can be used many times. For quick touch-ups to improve your car's appearance, this method is often more than enough without adding extra cost. 6. Vaseline to clear up cloudy headlights. Yellowed headlights are one of the fastest ways a car starts to look old, even when everything else is still in good shape. The problem is, many people think they have to take the car to a shop for headlight polishing, which usually costs many around $120, while there is a much simpler way you can do it at home. All you need is a small amount of Vaseline and a clean cloth. Take a moderate amount and rub it evenly onto the headlight surface using circular motions. Spend a bit more time on the areas that are more faded and then wipe it off with a dry cloth. After you are done, you will see the headlights become noticeably clearer. The hazy layer is reduced and the front of the car looks brighter and newer. This difference is easiest to notice under light or when you turn the headlights on at night. The real cause is not that the headlights are damaged, but that the outer plastic layer has oxidized due to sun exposure and weather. That layer becomes cloudy and yellow over time. When you apply Vaseline, the oil fills that surface, reducing the haze and allowing light to pass through more effectively. A jar of Vaseline costs just a few dollars and can be used many times, while each professional treatment costs many times more. For headlights with light to moderate haze, this method is enough to make a noticeable improvement without spending extra money. 7. Toothpaste to clean side mirrors. Side mirrors are something you use every day, but they are very easy to overlook. Over time, the mirror surface starts to develop water spots, fine dust, and a light, hazy layer. During the day, it is not very noticeable, but at night, it becomes dangerous when facing headlights from vehicles behind you because the reflection becomes glaring and no longer sharp. You only need a small amount of white toothpaste. Apply it onto a damp cloth and gently rub the mirror surface in circular motions. Then rinse it with clean water and dry it with a soft cloth. You will see the mirror become clearer, the residue reduced, and the reflection sharper. Looking through the mirror will feel more comfortable, especially when driving at night or when there is strong light coming from behind. Toothpaste contains very fine abrasive particles. These particles help remove the buildup on the surface without scratching it, if you rub gently the right way. Because of that, the mirror surface is cleaned more evenly compared to just wiping it normally. Instead of buying a separate product just to deal with a small detail like mirrors, you can simply use toothpaste that you already have at home. It is simple and still quite effective for cleaning. Like the video if this surprised you. 8. Vinegar and newspaper for cleaning glass. If you have ever driven at night or when sunlight hits at an angle, you know how uncomfortable it feels when the glass is not truly clear. Looking straight ahead, it may seem clean, but once light hits it, a hazy film shows up and your visibility drops noticeably. This is not because you are not cleaning it enough, it is caused by a layer of oil and water residue that builds up on the glass over time. This is especially true for the inside of the windshield, where vapors from the dashboard and interior rise up and settle on the surface. Regular wiping usually cannot remove it completely. There is a simple trick that not many people know. Mix white vinegar with water at a 1-to-1 ratio, then spray it directly onto the glass. Instead of using paper towels or a cloth, take up an old newspaper and wipe evenly across the entire surface. After that, you will notice the glass becomes much clearer, without streaks like you get with regular cloths. Once it dries, the surface looks noticeably cleaner. Light passes through more clearly, and driving at night feels much more comfortable without glare or blur. Vinegar has mild acidity, which helps cut through oil and residue, even the layers that regular glass cleaners cannot fully remove. As for newspapers, their texture and ink help polish the glass surface without leaving lint like cloth does. In the US, this is a method many experienced drivers still use, especially for vehicles that are driven a lot or parked outdoors regularly. You do not need expensive products. Doing it the right way already makes a big difference. 9. Black shoe polish to restore faded plastic. Exterior plastic trim is one of the fastest parts of a car to show wear, and you can see it every day. Once the trim around the doors, mirror housings, or handles turns gray and faded, the whole car immediately looks older, even if the paint is still in good condition. The main cause is sun exposure and weather. The plastic gradually dries out, loses its color, and no longer has the depth it once had. Many people try store-bought restoration products, but most of them only last a short time. After a few washes, the color fades again. When you run into this issue, you can use black shoe polish in wax form. Apply a small amount evenly onto the cleaned plastic surface, then let it sit for a few minutes so the wax can bond. Finally, wipe off any excess with a cloth. After that, you will see the previously faded areas look more even, with deeper color, and the whole vehicle appears cleaner and more refined. Besides the wax layer, the polish also contains coloring agents, so it adheres well to plastic surfaces. This method is commonly used by experienced drivers. A small tin of shoe polish costs around $5, which is far cheaper than replacing plastic parts or paying for restoration services. For light to moderate fading, the results are noticeable right away. 10. Shampoo for cleaning floor mats. Floor mats are the dirtiest part of the car, yet they are often ignored the longest. After a few months, you start to notice it clearly. Dirt and mud build up, some areas have old food stains, and sometimes there is even a slight damp smell when you step into the car without realizing it immediately. When facing this situation, many people let it build up and then take the car for a full interior cleaning to get it done all at once. In the US, a service like that usually costs no less than $150, and the results only last for a while if you keep using the car daily. In reality, you can handle it at home in a much simpler way. Just mix a small amount of shampoo with warm water in a spray bottle, then spray it directly onto the dirty areas of the mat. Once the mat is evenly damp, use a soft brush to scrub gently in circular motions so the dirt lifts out of the fabric. Finally, use a clean cloth to blot and absorb the remaining water and dirt. After finishing, you will see the mats are noticeably cleaner. Stains fade significantly and the smell becomes much more pleasant. The feeling when stepping into the car is completely different compared to when the mats were damp and dirty. The advantage here is that shampoo is designed to clean oil and dirt from hair, so it also works well on organic stains like mud, sweat, or food residue. At the same time, it is gentler than specialized chemicals, so it does not fade colors or damage the fabric fibers. If you do this regularly and clean spots before they sit for too long, you will not need to spend money on expensive deep cleaning services anymore. 11. Do not wash your car under direct sunlight. Many people have the habit of washing their car when it is sunny so it dries faster, but that habit is exactly what makes the paint look worse over time without you realizing it. When you pour water onto a hot surface, the water evaporates before it has time to run off completely. The part that evaporates is not a problem, but what remains are tiny mineral deposits left behind on the paint. At first, they appear as small spots, but after repeated washing, the surface starts to look dull and loses its shine. What confuses many people is that right after washing, the car still looks clean. But once it fully dries or is exposed to strong light, those marks become very visible. At that point, wiping again will not remove them. because they are no longer sitting on the surface. The solution is not about changing soap or buying more tools. It is about choosing the right time to wash your car. Simply picking a cooler time of day, such as early morning or late afternoon, or just finding a shaded area can help you avoid most of this issue. When the surface is cool, water does not evaporate too quickly, so you have enough time to rinse each section properly. This helps the paint keep its shine longer without needing additional treatment. In reality, many cars lose paint quality early not because of poor materials, but because of simple mistakes in care like this. 12. Clay bar to smooth the paint surface. After washing your car, it may look very clean, but when you run your hand across the paint, it still feels slightly rough instead of smooth. The reason is not that you did not wash it well enough. It is because very small particles like brake dust, metal particles, or environmental fallout have bonded tightly to the paint. These particles are not sitting on top, they are embedded into the surface, so regular washing with water and soap cannot remove them. If you pay close attention, this is most noticeable on light-colored cars or vehicles that have been parked outdoors for long periods. You can try cleaning a small section with a clay bar and compare it to the rest. Before using it, the surface feels slightly rough. After a few passes, it becomes much smoother. This is something many people overlook. When the surface is not deeply cleaned and you apply wax or polish, those particles get dragged across the paint. Over time, they create very fine scratches that you may not notice right away. A clay bar works by pulling those trapped particles out of the paint. You do not need to press hard, just move it lightly and evenly. A clay bar kit costs around $15 and can be used many times. Compared to waiting until the paint degrades and then fixing it, this is a much simpler method, and the results are noticeable right from the first use. 13. Coconut oil for a quick paint shine. There's a very uncomfortable situation many people run into. The moment you open the car door, you can tell there's a stuffy smell inside. It's not a strong odor like trash or food. It's more of a mild but unpleasant smell that makes the cabin feel uncomfortable, especially after the car has been sitting in the sun for a few hours. What often gets misunderstood is that people assume the smell is coming from the carpet or the seats, so they start wiping or deep cleaning those areas. But in many cases, the odor is no longer just on the surface. It's already in the air inside the car. Because the cabin is a closed space, that air gets trapped and the smell just lingers without escaping. That's why you can clean everything thoroughly, but after closing the doors for a while and opening them again, the smell comes back almost the same. At that point, the issue isn't about clean or dirty anymore. It's that the air inside hasn't been treated. The fix is much simpler than most people think. You don't need to remove the seats or wash the carpet. Just place a small box of baking soda inside the car. You can leave it in a cup holder or under a seat, then let it sit overnight or for a few days. During that time, the baking soda slowly absorbs the odors in the enclosed air. It doesn't add a new scent, it simply pulls the existing smell out of the space. So the change you notice isn't that the car smells fragrant, it's that when you open the door, the unpleasant odor is gone. The air feels lighter and more comfortable, almost like the cabin has been reset to its original state. Compared to using air fresheners or hanging fragrances, those only mask the smell temporarily. This method works directly on the air inside, so the results last longer. And compared to paying a few $100s for professional odor treatment, a small box of baking soda costs just a few dollars, lasts a long time, and still delivers clear results for light to moderate odors. 14. Homemade car wash solution. You do not always need to buy expensive car wash products to clean your vehicle properly. In many cases, if you mix the right ratio using things you already have at home, you can still clean the car effectively without harming the paint. The key is what you use and how you mix it. If you use strong dish soap, the paint can dry out and lose its shine over time. But if you choose a milder soap or combine it with something more balanced, you can create a mixture that cleans well while still being safe. All you need is warm water mixed with a small amount of mild soap. You can add a little shampoo to reduce the harshness. Once mixed, the solution creates a moderate amount of foam. Not too much, but enough to lift dirt and grime from the surface. When you use it, you will notice the foam spreads evenly, rinses off easily, and does not leave a dry or rough feeling on the paint. After rinsing with clean water, the surface still feels smooth and does not become dull like when using overly strong cleaners. If you pay attention, many cars lose their shine faster over time, not because of scratches, but because they are washed with the wrong type of soap. The issue is not poor paint quality, but the protective layer gradually being stripped away. In reality, many people who take good care of their cars do not always rely on expensive products. They understand how to balance cleaning and protection. As long as you mix and use it correctly, you can wash your car regularly without worrying about damaging the surface. The cost of this method is almost nothing since you are using items you already have. Compared to buying multiple types of products, this is a simpler approach that still works well for everyday use. 15. Toothpaste to remove light scratches. Not every scratch on your car requires a trip to the shop or professional equipment. However, most people cannot tell the difference between scratches that need real repair and those that only sit on the surface and can be handled at home. That is why many people are willing to spend $150 to $300 on polishing, even though the paint underneath is still intact. These types of marks are usually very fine, do not expose a different color, and only become visible when light hits them at the right angle. If you run your hand across the surface and do not feel any roughness, then the issue is almost always limited to the outermost layer. In that case, you do not need anything complicated. Just use a small amount of regular toothpaste, apply it to a damp cloth, and work gently on the affected area. Move slowly, apply even pressure, and focus on a small spot instead of spreading it too wide. After wiping it clean, you will notice the difference is not that the scratch disappears completely, but that it no longer stands out. Under normal viewing, it is barely noticeable. Only when you look closely under strong light will you still see a very faint trace. What really changes is the overall look of the surface. Before, light reflected unevenly at that spot. After treatment, the reflection becomes more uniform, so the entire panel, whether it is the door or body, looks more consistent. This method does not replace professional repair for deeper damage, but for small marks that come from daily use, it is enough to improve the appearance without adding extra cost. Taking care of your car does not always require spending a lot of money. Most of the issues you deal with every day can be handled with simple methods if you know where to focus. Just by changing a few small habits, you can keep your car cleaner and better looking while also avoiding many unnecessary expenses in the long run. Have you tried any of these tips on your car yet? There's something many people don't realize. WD-40 isn't just for loosening stuck parts or basic lubrication like you might think. In reality, it can help you handle a wide range of small issues on your car, problems that could cost you money if you don't know about them. And by the time you figure it out, you may have already paid for something you could have avoided if you knew these 15 tips earlier. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Preventing brake rotor rust. New brake rotors or ones that have just been washed often look very clean at first, but after a short time, you'll notice the center section and outer edge start to change color. A light yellowish-brown rust forms around the hub area and the outer rim. You can easily see it through the wheel spokes even though the actual braking surface is still working fine. The reason is that these areas don't participate in braking. The surface that contacts the brake pads gets cleaned every time you press the brakes, but the center hub and outer edge do not. When exposed to water from washing or rain, moisture stays there and rust forms quickly. If you want to keep the brake assembly looking clean and reduce rust buildup, you can handle it early. Before spraying, use a piece of cardboard or something similar to fully cover the friction surface of the rotor, the part that contacts the brake pads. Then apply a thin layer of WD-40 to the center hub area, around the wheel bolts, and along the outer edge of the rotor. This creates a protective film that prevents moisture from directly contacting the metal, slowing down the rusting process. After spraying, check carefully to make sure no oil has gotten onto the braking surface. The key point is to never let WD-40 get onto the friction area. If it does, clean it immediately with brake cleaner before driving, because the oil can directly affect braking performance. Once done properly, the brake assembly will stay cleaner longer and won't discolor as quickly. It also reduces the chance of the wheel sticking to the hub due to rust, making it easier to remove the wheel when you need to change a tire, especially in emergency situations. 2. Lubricating the fuel door. A fuel door doesn't suddenly get stuck. It usually starts with a subtle change. You notice it doesn't pop open as smoothly as before. Sometimes you pull the release, and the door only moves slightly or doesn't open cleanly. That's a sign that dirt and light corrosion have started building up inside. The hinge and latch are located in an area that's constantly exposed to rain, road dust, and humidity. Over time, these elements build up, slowing down the movement and reducing the spring's ability to pop the door open. When it no longer moves freely, you end up having to assist it by hand. If this keeps happening, the mechanism can become misaligned or damaged. Once you get the fuel door open, spray WD-40 directly onto the hinge and latch area. Then open and close the door about 10 times to let the lubricant spread evenly inside. You'll notice the difference right away. The door will pop open more smoothly and decisively. You can apply the same method to the hood latch or trunk latch since they work in a similar way. If you ignore the issue and keep forcing it open, the latch can eventually break or misalign, and replacing the entire fuel door assembly can cost over $200. 3. Cleaning and protecting battery terminals. Your car might run fine one day, but the next morning, it cranks weakly or doesn't start at all. Many people immediately think the battery is dead or the engine has a problem. But sometimes, the cause is just a small detail under the hood. When you open it, you might see a white or light green powder around the battery terminals. It looks like dried residue, almost like salt. This is corrosion caused by a chemical reaction between the battery acid and the air. This buildup doesn't just look bad, it also interferes with electrical flow, causing weak starts or no start at all. The fix isn't complicated, but it's best done before it becomes a bigger issue. First, disconnect the negative terminal, then the positive. Once removed, spray WD-40 directly onto the corroded areas and let it sit for a few minutes to soften the buildup. Then use a brush to clean it off and wipe everything dry. When reconnecting, attach the positive terminal first, then the negative. Finally, apply a thin layer of WD-40 on the terminals to create a moisture barrier and help prevent corrosion from returning. Doing this simple maintenance can save you a lot of trouble. A single tow in the US can cost around $150 just because the car won't start, when the real issue might only be dirty terminals. Not to mention, some people replace the battery unnecessarily. This is a small maintenance step, but if done regularly, it can prevent unexpected no-start situations altogether. 4. Fixing a slow retracting seatbelt. A seatbelt that retracts slowly doesn't fail suddenly. It usually develops over time. At first, you just notice the belt doesn't pull back as quickly as before. But after a while, it may not retract fully and starts hanging loosely on the seat. Over years of use, sweat, dust, and oils from your hands build up on the fabric. This increases friction as the belt passes through the guide on the B-pillar. As friction increases, the internal spring can no longer pull the belt back with the same force. All you need to do is pull the seatbelt out fully to expose the entire length. Then use a cloth with a small amount of WD-40 and wipe along both sides of the belt to remove the built-up grime. As you wipe, you'll notice the cloth changing color. That's the dirt being lifted off. Next, apply a very small amount of WD-40 into the retractor slot inside the B-pillar. This is where the spring mechanism is located, and a little lubrication helps it operate smoothly again. After that, pull the belt in and out a few times to test it. You'll notice it retracts more cleanly and no longer gets stuck or slows down halfway. When a seatbelt doesn't work properly, it's not just inconvenient, it directly affects safety. A belt that doesn't retract fully can also get caught in the door, and over time, this can scratch or dent the door edge. Replacing a seatbelt retractor can cost up to $300. Fixing it early helps maintain proper function and prevents unnecessary damage. 5. Preventing rust from spreading. Rust doesn't start as large patches like you usually see. It always begins with very small spots, often a dark mark in the wheel well or along the edge of the body. At first glance, it looks like dirt, but it's actually the early stage of corrosion. In areas with snow, road salt sticks to the underside of the car every day. When combined with moisture, it creates a highly corrosive environment, especially in spots where the paint has been chipped by road debris. Once the protective paint layer is gone, the metal underneath is exposed. When you spot early rust, you can treat it before it spreads. Spray a small amount of WD-40 directly onto the affected area and let it sit for a few minutes to soften the rust. Then use a brush to clean the surface and wipe it dry. Once the metal is clean, apply a thin layer of WD-40 to create a barrier between the surface and moist air. This won't permanently remove rust, but it will help hold it in place until you're ready for proper repainting. If you stop rust at this stage, the process ends with simple cleaning and protection. But if you let it spread, the surface starts bubbling, the paint peels off, and the metal weakens. At that point, repairs involve bodywork and repainting. In US shops, fixing rust on body panels can easily cost $500 or more. If it spreads, the cost can be much higher. Treating it early takes just a few minutes and helps you avoid more complex repairs later. 6. Preventing door seals from freezing. On a cold morning, you unlock your car, but the door won't open. When you pull harder, the rubber seal starts making a sticking sound and feels like it's stretching. That's when a thin layer of ice had bonded the sill to the door frame overnight. This happens because moisture remains on the rubber surface. When temperatures drop, that moisture freezes and creates a bond between the seal and the body. If you force the door open, the seal can tear or deform, which later causes the cabin to lose its proper seal. The key is to treat it before cold weather hits. Use a soft cloth with a small amount of WD-40 and apply a thin layer along all the rubber seals around the doors, trunk, and hood. This coating prevents moisture from sticking, reducing the chance of ice forming. When the rubber surface stays dry, the doors will open normally even in low temperatures. No force needed, no sticking like before. If the seals are already damaged, you'll start to notice the car isn't as tight as it used to be. Wind noise becomes more noticeable at higher speeds, and on rainy days, water may start to seep into areas that were previously dry. By treating the rubber seals before temperatures drop, you maintain their original condition. The doors stay sealed properly and operate smoothly throughout the cold season without creating additional problems later on. 7. Fixing a stuck lock cylinder. You insert the key, try to turn it, and it won't move. The first thought is usually a worn key or a bad lock, but in most cases, the problem comes from small things building up inside, fine dust, moisture, even salt in coastal areas. Over time, these collect on the internal metal pins and make the movement less smooth. There's a quick fix that doesn't require taking anything apart. Spray a very light coat of WD-40 onto the metal part of the key. Then insert and remove it about 4 to 5 times. This carries a small amount of lubricant inside and spreads it across the internal pins. After that, gently turn the key back and forth. You'll feel the difference right away. One mistake many people make is spraying directly into the lock. That can trap more dirt over time. Using the key as a carrier delivers just the right amount to the areas that need it without excess. It takes only a few seconds, but it can save you a lot of money. A locksmith visit in the US often starts around $150 for basic service, and replacing the entire lock assembly can quickly exceed $200. In many cases, the real issue is just minor mechanical sticking that you can fix on the spot. Like the video if this surprised you. 8. Restoring cloudy headlights. Headlights don't turn cloudy overnight. It starts as a slight haze. Then, over time, the plastic surface turns yellow and loses clarity. You may not notice it right away, until you drive at night and realize the light output is weaker and doesn't reach as far as before. This happens because the outer plastic layer oxidizes when the car is exposed to sunlight over time. UV rays and heat gradually break down the surface, creating a cloudy layer that scatters light instead of letting it pass through clearly. That's why nighttime visibility can drop significantly, even if the bulbs are still working fine. If you need a quick improvement, there's a temporary fix that works surprisingly well. Spray a moderate amount of WD-40 directly onto the headlight surface, then wipe it evenly with a microfiber cloth. Once the dirt and surface oxidation are cleaned off, the lens will look clearer immediately. You'll notice the biggest difference at night. The light becomes more focused and brighter. It won't restore the headlights to like-new condition, but it can significantly improve visibility when you need it, like during an unexpected night drive. However, this isn't a long-term solution. The oxidation will come back over time because the plastic surface has already degraded. For a permanent fix, you'll need proper polishing and a protective coating. A professional headlamp restoration in the US typically costs around $150. This method gives you a quick improvement in just a few minutes, helping you drive more safely until you can do a proper repair. 9. Removing stuck spark plugs safely. This is one of those issues many people experience only once, but never forget. It starts as a routine spark plug replacement, but one rushed move can turn it into an expensive repair. After some time, especially around 100,000 miles, spark plug threads can seize. You may not always see obvious rust, but inside, there's often buildup or oxidation that makes the plug harder to remove. If you put a socket on and try to force it out right away, all the torque goes into the threads and the plug body. That's where the risk begins. The plug can snap, or worse, damage the aluminum threads in the cylinder head. At that point, a simple job turns into a major repair, sometimes requiring removal of the cylinder head. A safer approach is to slow down. Make sure the engine is completely cool. Apply a small amount of WD-40 around the base of the spark plug threads. You don't need much, just enough for it to seep in. Let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. When you start removing the plug, don't try to loosen it in one go. Turn it slightly forward, then back, repeating the motion several times. This gradually breaks up the buildup inside, reduces stress on the threads, and avoids sudden force. A can of WD-40 costs around $6, but it can help you avoid a major repair. A standard spark plug replacement might cost about $20 in parts, but if something goes wrong, repairs can easily exceed $200, or much more if deeper engine work is required. 10. Cleaning interior and sticky residue. There's a common mistake many people make without even realizing it. When they see sticky residue inside the car, they grab a wet cloth and start wiping. If it doesn't come off, they scrub harder. The result is the residue stays while the plastic or glass surface starts getting light scratches you don't notice right away. This happens all the time. Old stickers stuck on glass, chewing gum hardened in cup holders, or leftover adhesive after removing a dash cam or a toll tag. They may seem minor, but if handled the wrong way, they're very difficult to clean completely. The correct method is actually much simpler. Don't spray WD-40 directly onto the surface. Spray it onto a microfiber cloth first, then press it against the sticky area for about 20 to 30 seconds. That's enough time for the solvent to soften the adhesive. When you wipe again, the residue will come off easily, without force and without damaging the surface. But this is where many people make a mistake. They stop as soon as it looks clean. In reality, WD-40 leaves behind a thin, oily film. If you skip the final step, that film will attract dust, making the surface dirty again quickly, and it may even smear under heat. So the final step is to wipe it again with mild soapy water to remove any remaining residue. Do it properly, and you'll see the difference right away. Just this tip alone can save you a noticeable amount of money. A professional interior cleaning in the US often costs over $150, and the hardest part is usually dealing with sticky residue like this. Once you know how to handle it, you're basically doing the most expensive part yourself. 11. Restoring wiper blades. The sound of wipers often makes people think they need to replace them right away. But in most cases, the issue isn't that the rubber is worn out. It's that the surface is no longer clean. Over time, wiper blades collect a lot of buildup you can't easily see. Tree sap, fine road dust, and even a thin layer of oil from the air gradually stick to the rubber. When that layer builds up, the blade no longer glides smoothly across the glass. As a result, each pass can chatter, make noise, and leave streaks. You don't need to replace them immediately. Start by cleaning the rubber surface. Lift the wiper arm. Use a soft cloth or cotton with a small amount of WD-40 and wipe along the length of the blade. You'll notice the cloth starts to darken. That's the dirt being removed. Repeat a few times until the surface is noticeably cleaner. After that, wipe it again thoroughly with a damp cloth to remove any leftover oil. If you skip this step, the oil can smear on the glass when it gets wet, bringing back the problem in a different way. A can of WD-40 in the US usually costs around $6 and can be used for many different tasks. Meanwhile, a new pair of wiper blades can cost between $30 and $60. With the right method, you can extend the life of your blades for a few more months and avoid replacing them before it's really necessary. 12. Making tires look like new. After washing your car, the body may look clean and shiny, but when you look at the tires, the color often looks uneven. The sidewalls turn a faded gray, looking dry and aged, which makes the whole car appear older even after cleaning. This happens because the rubber surface collects fine dust and brake residue and undergoes slight oxidation over time. These layers don't wash off easily with just water and soap, so the original deep black color gradually fades. If you want a quick visual improvement, like before taking photos to sell the car, or simply making it look cleaner, WD-40 can help. Don't spray it directly onto the tire. Spray it onto a sponge or soft cloth, then wipe it evenly across the tire sidewall. After wiping, you'll see the rubber darken, the surface look more even and clean, and the overall appearance of the car improve noticeably from the outside. But there's one important thing to keep in mind. Do not let WD-40 get onto the tire tread or braking components. The oily layer can reduce grip, which is something you definitely want to avoid while driving. Also, this is only a temporary cosmetic solution. WD-40 doesn't provide long-term protection for rubber. After some driving, dust will build up again, and the effect will gradually fade. Used correctly, this is a quick way to make your car look cleaner in just a few minutes, especially when you need a fast improvement in appearance. 13. Fixing a squeaky serpentine belt. There's a sound that's easy to recognize when you start the engine. A light squeal, sharp and coming from the front of the engine bay. At first, it only lasts a few seconds, then goes away. But over time, it starts happening more often, especially when you turn on the AC or press the accelerator. This noise is usually related to the serpentine belt. When the belt surface becomes dry or dirty, it no longer grips the pulleys properly. That causes slight slipping, which creates the squealing sound. The issue is, similar noises can also come from other components like the tensioner or bearings, so relying on sound alone can lead to the wrong diagnosis. There's a quick way to check without taking anything apart. With the engine running, stand at a safe distance and spray a very small amount of WD-40 onto the rib side of the belt. If the squeal disappears immediately, the cause is simply a dry or dirty belt surface. In that case, you don't need to replace it right away. You can keep using it and monitor the condition. But if the noise is still there, then it's more likely coming from the tensioner or bearings, and it's worth inspecting more closely. The key is understanding the condition before taking the car in. In reality, there are many cases where people are advised to replace an entire assembly at a high cost, even though the root cause is something very minor. This method doesn't fix everything, but it helps you identify the right direction, avoid unnecessary replacements, and stay in control of what's happening with your car. 14. Making windshield chips less noticeable. There are small marks on the windshield that you barely notice during normal driving, but under bright sunlight or when driving against the light, they suddenly stand out and become distracting. Even a tiny rock chip, if it sits right in your line of sight, can be tiring to look at over time. This happens a lot on highways. Small debris hits the glass and leaves a tiny chip. At first, it seems insignificant, but the problem is you can't always fix it right away. You might be waiting for an insurance appointment or simply not ready to spend around $80 to $150 for a professional glass repair. In the meantime, there's a temporary fix that works better than you might expect. First, clean the glass to remove any dust and prevent further scratching. Then apply a small drop of WD-40 directly onto the center of the chip. The oil seeps into the tiny gaps, replacing the trapped air inside. When light passes through, the chip reflects much less, making it about 60 to 70% less visible. After that, wipe off any excess oil around the area so it doesn't affect the wipers or smear the glass when it gets wet. Done correctly, the chip becomes far less distracting while driving. But this is not a permanent repair. It only helps improve visibility for a short time, especially if you're not ready to spend money right away. If left too long, especially with temperature changes, the chip can spread quickly. At that point, you could be looking at up to $800 for a full windshield replacement. 15. Hiding light paint scratches. Light scratches on the paint surface aren't a major issue structurally, but they're one of the fastest ways to make a car look worn out. This is especially noticeable on dark-colored cars. When light hits at an angle, fine swirl marks become very visible and take away the shine. What many people don't realize is that most of these scratches are only in the clear coat layer. The paint underneath is still intact. The reason you see them is because light gets scattered through those tiny grooves. Once you understand that, the fix doesn't need to be complicated. Before doing anything, make sure the surface is completely clean. Any remaining dust can create more scratches while wiping. Then take a soft cloth, spray a small amount of WD-40 onto it, and gently wipe in circular motions. You're not scrubbing to remove scratches, you're letting the oil spread evenly across the surface and fill in those micro grooves. When that thin layer of oil settles evenly, light reflects more smoothly. That's why the scratches seem to disappear under normal viewing conditions. This is something many shops don't clearly explain, because they want you to think only machine polishing can fix it. If you want the result to last longer, you can apply a layer of wax on top. It helps stabilize the surface and keeps the shine for a few more weeks, especially if the car is often parked in the sun. A basic paint correction job in the US can easily exceed $500, but for light scratches like these, you can make the car look much better in just a few minutes. It's not a permanent fix, but it's enough to make the car look far more presentable. WD-40 isn't just a lubricant spray. It's a practical tool that helps you handle small issues before they turn into expensive problems. When used correctly, it not only saves you money, but also gives you more control in keeping your car in good condition without relying entirely on a garage. Which tips from this video have you already tried? There's a truth most drivers don't realize. The car you drive every day already has built-in features that can save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars. But because you don't know they're there, you might be using the car the wrong way. Sometimes just one small action can slowly damage the car without you noticing, and the cost to fix it is not cheap. You'd be awesome if you like this video. 1. Resetting the ECU with the key. There are times when your car isn't completely broken, but it just doesn't feel the same to drive. Throttle response feels slower, shifts aren't as smooth, or some functions act a little off. The frustrating part is that everything happens subtly. It's not obvious enough to call it a fault, but enough to make you feel like something isn't right. In many cases, the issue isn't with hardware. It's with the data the system has been storing over a long period of use. When that data starts to drift, the car responds incorrectly without you realizing it. On many vehicles, something most people don't even know, you can do a light ECU reset using just the key. Turn the ignition to the accessory or on position. Hold it there for a few dozen seconds, and then turn it off and start the car again. This process helps clear temporary errors and brings the system back to a more stable operating state. What's interesting is that many people only learn about this step after taking their car to a shop and paying for exactly that procedure. If you don't know it, you'll keep driving the car in a less than optimal state. Or worse, spend money fixing something that didn't actually need repair. 2. Fuel door release when the car has no power. One of the most common situations I keep seeing in the garage is curb rash on wheels. It's usually not just a light scratch in one spot. Most of the time, the entire outer edge is scraped, and you can tell right away the car has hit the curb multiple times. There are cars that have only been on the road for a few months. The owners take good care of them, yet the wheels already show small scratches in different sections. At first, it's just a few faint marks. But the more often the car is backed up near a curb, the longer and deeper those scratches become. In more serious cases, the rim edge gets worn down or chipped, and you end up having to refinish it or replace the entire set, which is not cheap. What's important is that most of these situations happen when backing into tight spaces or parallel parking. The driver can't directly see where the wheel is, so they rely on feel or the standard mirror angle. The margin of error is very small, just a few centimeters, but even a slight contact with the curb is enough to start scraping the rim. Meanwhile, many cars already have a feature that helps you see exactly what you need. When you shift into reverse, the passenger side mirror automatically tilts downward. Instead of pointing straight back, it angles down so you can clearly see the wheel and the actual distance to the curb. The issue is that this feature is often not enabled or not set up correctly. Many drivers use their cars for years without even knowing it exists. All you need to do is adjust the mirror angle while the car is in reverse. The system will remember it and automatically apply the same position the next time. 3. Emergency fuel door release cable. Every car has a fuel door release mechanism that works independently of the electrical system. That's the emergency release cable. It operates completely mechanically, meaning when you pull it, the force goes directly to the latch without needing any power. The key difference is that while the fuel door button inside the car depends entirely on electricity, this cable still works even when the vehicle has no power. And there are plenty of cases where cars lose power after sitting for a long time or when something was left on. At that point, the doors may still open, but the fuel door won't respond. Many people don't know this mechanism exists, so they call for help. A single roadside service or tow can cost around $300 just to deal with opening the fuel door. If you know where the cable is, the entire issue is solved on the spot. Just open the trunk, locate the correct spot inside near the fuel door, and give it a firm pull. The fuel door will pop open right away. 4. Free remote start using the key. When you buy a car, you're often told to install an app to remote start it, usually costing around $25 a month. At first, it feels convenient, so you just go with it, especially on hot days or early mornings when you want to cool the car down before getting in. Then one day, you notice someone standing at a distance starting their car using just the key fob. You try it yourself and realize all it takes is pressing the lock button twice, then holding it on the third press for a few seconds. The engine starts immediately, no app needed. There are also cases where the app subscription expires or the connection fails and the remote start won't work. While trying to figure it out, people go back to using the key, and the car still starts normally. That's when they realize the feature was there all along, just never used. If you do the math, a few dozen dollars a month can add up to around $300 a year, just to use a function the key already provides for free. 5. Cooled glove compartment. The front glove compartment isn't just for storing paperwork like many people think. On quite a few vehicles, this compartment is connected directly to the AC airflow. So when you turn on the air conditioning, the inside of the glove box becomes noticeably cooler than the cabin. You can easily notice this by putting your hand inside while the AC is running. There's usually a light airflow coming in, enough to keep the temperature inside more stable. Some cars even have a small dial to open or close this airflow, but since it's tucked away, many people never notice it. Many drivers say they only discovered this feature by accident, like leaving a bottle of water in the glove box while the AC was on. After a drive, the water was still cool, while bottles left on the seat had already warmed up. From then on, they started using this space for drinks, snacks, or anything sensitive to heat. If you don't know about it, you'll keep stuffing it with papers and random items. But once you do, you've got a built-in cooling space in your car without needing any extra equipment. 6. Drain system below the windshield. Right below the windshield, near the wipers, there's a system of channels and drains that many people overlook. This is where rainwater, dirt, and leaves are directed out of the vehicle during bad weather. From the outside, everything looks normal, so most people don't think it needs attention. Just open the hood and look at the area along the base of the windshield. You'll see small slots or plastic grills. That's where the water flows through. When it rains heavily or the car is parked under trees, dry leaves and debris can easily build up there. At first, nothing seems wrong, but once enough debris accumulates, water can't drain properly and starts to pool. When water can't escape, it can back up into the cabin. This can cause musty smells, water collecting under the floor, or, in worse cases, damage to electrical components below. In car forums, there are many reports of people having to remove interior panels below. The water intrusion, costing a significant amount, just because this area was clogged and went unnoticed. In reality, all you need to do is check it periodically and clear out leaves and debris. If needed, you can use compressed air or a vacuum to clean it more thoroughly. 7. Auto hold. Auto hold is one of those features that directly affects driving comfort, yet it's often overlooked because many people don't know how to turn it on or what it actually does. The button is usually located near the gear selector or on the center console, but if you don't pay attention, you could drive the car for years without ever using it. When activated, Auto hold automatically keeps the brakes applied whenever the car comes to a complete stop. That means you can take your foot off the brake pedal and the car will stay still, without rolling forward or backward. As soon as you press the accelerator again, the system releases the brakes and the car moves normally. This becomes especially noticeable when you're stopped at long red lights or driving in heavy traffic. Instead of holding your foot on the brake the whole time, you can relax completely. On inclines, this feature prevents the car from rolling backward when you switch from brake to throttle, avoiding those small jerks that many drivers experience. Many people notice a clear improvement in driving comfort after trying it, especially in city traffic. Meanwhile, if you don't know about auto hold, you'll keep the habit of holding the brake pedal without realizing there's an easier way. 8. Brake drying system. You won't see it working, and there's no warning or message on the screen, but while the car is moving, the braking system on many vehicles isn't completely inactive like you might think. Even when you're not touching the brake pedal, a very subtle process is still happening in the background. When outside conditions become damp, the car automatically applies a very light braking force, just enough to maintain friction on the brake disc surface. This force is too small to feel, but it keeps the surface dry and ready. The key point is that the system doesn't wait until you need the brakes. It works in advance, maintaining a stable condition so that when you press the brake pedal, the braking force comes in immediately, without delay. You might notice this after washing the car or driving through water. Let the car move for a short distance, then try braking. On some vehicles, the response feels almost immediate, with no initial slip. That's when the brake surface has already been kept dry. Without this process, the first brake application often feels slightly weak for a brief moment before full braking force builds up. 9. Seatbelt height adjustment. This is another detail right in front of you every day, yet it's rarely touched: the position of the seatbelt on the door pillar. Many people leave it exactly as it was when they got the car, without adjusting it, so the belt sits off-center relative to their height without them noticing. At first, it may just feel slightly uncomfortable or rub against the neck. Over time, you get used to it, making it harder to realize it's actually set incorrectly. In reality, all you need to do is press the adjustment latch and move it slightly up or down. You'll notice the difference right away. When positioned correctly, the belt runs across your shoulder and fits snugly across your chest. It won't rub against your neck or slide down your arm. The driving position feels more stable, especially during braking or sudden direction changes. Some people only adjust it after a long trip, when the constant pressure on their neck becomes uncomfortable enough to notice. After fixing it, they realize they've been dealing with that discomfort for a long time without knowing why. More importantly, when the belt is positioned incorrectly, it doesn't restrain your body the way it was originally designed to. The adjustment takes just a few seconds, but if you ignore it, you're not using a critical safety system the right way. Like the video if this surprised you. 10. Seatbelt load limiter section. You might notice a small detail on your seatbelt every day, right near the latch. A section of fabric that's folded and stitched in a way that looks unusual. Many people see it but assume it's just extra material or a manufacturing flaw, so they don't pay attention. In reality, this detail is an important part of the vehicle's safety system, designed with a specific purpose. During a strong impact, your body is thrown forward with significant force. If the seatbelt were held completely rigid, the stopping force would be transferred directly to your chest and ribs in a very short moment. That's what can lead to serious internal injuries that aren't immediately visible from the outside. That folded section is designed to tear in a controlled way once the force exceeds a certain threshold. As it gradually tears, the seatbelt gives slightly, reducing the sudden stopping force. This helps spread the load across your body instead of concentrating it in one spot, significantly lowering the risk of rib fractures or internal injuries. The key point is that after a collision, even if the belt looks fine, this load-limiting section may have already done its job. When that happens, the entire seatbelt should be replaced. This is something many people overlook. 11. Replacing the cabin air filter yourself. The cabin air filter is something you don't see every day, but it directly affects the air you breathe inside the car. Over time, fine dust, pollen, and other contaminants build up inside it. At first, you might just notice a slight odor or weaker airflow from the AC, but if left unchanged, the air inside the cabin can feel stuffy and uncomfortable, especially on longer drives. When this happens, many people assume there's a problem with the air conditioning system and take the car in for inspection. That's where unnecessary costs often come in, because replacing a cabin filter is sometimes charged up to $60 in labor, even though the actual process is very simple. The filter is usually located right behind the glove box on the passenger side. Open the glove box, gently squeeze the sides to lower it, and you'll see the filter cover inside. Remove it, replace the filter in the correct direction, and close everything back up. The whole process takes just a few minutes and requires no tools. There have been cases where drivers noticed a persistent, musty smell and thought the entire AC system needed cleaning. But after replacing the cabin filter, the smell disappeared immediately. The cost was only a few dozen for the filter, instead of paying for a full inspection. 12. Throttle reset. There's a type of wear you won't notice right away, until it starts affecting how the car responds. You press the accelerator, but the car no longer reacts as quickly as before. At first, it's just a slight delay. Then it becomes more noticeable. If it continues, the driving feel becomes less precise over time. Many people assume this is a mechanical issue and take the car in for inspection, even though the cause isn't always hardware-related. Modern electronic throttle systems can learn your driving habits. Over time, if driving conditions change or your driving style shifts, the accumulated data can cause the response to drift away from its original behavior. In this case, resetting it can bring the system back to a more balanced state. All you need to do is turn the key to the on position without starting the engine. Then press the accelerator pedal all the way down and hold it for about 10 seconds. After that, turn the ignition off and wait a moment before starting the car again. The entire process takes less than a minute and requires no tools. There have been cases where cars showed delayed or inconsistent throttle response, were checked, and no clear fault was found. After performing a reset, the throttle response became smoother and quicker again, because the issue was in the control data, not the hardware. 13. Tire pressure alert while inflating. Tire pressure directly affects safety and fuel consumption, but many people still handle it by feel. Some inflate the tire until it seems right, or just eyeball it and stop, even though a difference of just a few PS can cause uneven tire wear and unstable driving. On some vehicles, the system already helps you with this while you're inflating the tires. When you turn the ignition on and start adding air, the car monitors the pressure in real time. Once it reaches the correct level, the system gives a signal, like a beep or flashing light, so you know to stop immediately. The difference becomes clear when you compare both methods. If you inflate manually, you often have to add air, then release some, and repeat several times to get it right. But with this feature, you just keep inflating until the car signals. No guessing, no readjusting. If the pressure is too low, the tire becomes soft, increases fuel consumption, and wears more on the edges. If it's too high, the tire becomes too firm, reduces grip, and wears more in the center. In both cases, you'll end up replacing tires sooner, which can cost a few $100s each time. Meanwhile, if you get it right from the start, your tires last longer without needing any extra tools. 14. Wiper service mode. One common issue that leads people to replace the entire wiper assembly often starts from a small habit: turning on the wipers when the blades are stuck to the windshield without realizing it. In this situation, the motor isn't just rotating normally. It has to pull with much more force than it was designed for. This usually happens when the car is parked outside overnight, especially in cold weather or after a car wash. The blades stick tightly to the glass, And when you turn them on as usual, the load increases suddenly. At first, you might just feel the wipers moving heavily or hesitating slightly. But if this keeps happening, the motor wears out much faster than expected. Meanwhile, the car already has a built-in wiper service mode designed to handle exactly this situation. When activated, the wipers move up and stay in a raised position, away from the windshield. This prevents the blades from sticking, so when you use them again, the motor doesn't have to deal with abnormal resistance. The key point is that this step takes only a few seconds, but if you ignore it, replacing the wiper motor can cost anywhere from $200 to $400, not including labor. It's the kind of difference you only realize after paying for repairs, even though the solution was already built into the car. 15. Auto lock when leaving the car. It only takes one moment of forgetting to lock your car in a hurry for you to lose something inside without even realizing it. This usually doesn't happen when you're relaxed. It happens when your hands are full, you're on the phone, or you're dealing with multiple things at once. You walk away thinking the car is locked, but in reality, it isn't. It's a small mistake, but the consequences aren't small at all. Especially in crowded parking lots or unfamiliar areas, just a few minutes of carelessness can create real risk. Many people only realize it when they return to the car and notice signs that it was opened, even though they were sure they had locked it. On many vehicles, there's already a built-in way to eliminate this risk entirely. All you need to do is hold the lock button on the door for a few seconds before stepping out. The system will enter a standby mode, and once the door closes, the car automatically locks without any extra action. Some vehicles even fold the mirrors or flash the lights as confirmation, so you know for sure the car is locked. The difference comes down to how you leave your car. If you don't know this feature, you'll rely on old habits and accept the risk. But when you use it properly, everything is handled from the start. No need to go back and check, no second guessing whether you locked it or not. 16. Trunk cargo hooks. It only takes one hard brake or a quick turn for everything in the trunk to shift to one side. Grocery bags tip over, and liquids spill out and soak into the trunk floor. At that point, you're not just losing your items, you also have to deal with the mess inside the trunk, which can be difficult to clean completely if left too long. The issue is that most people simply place items in the trunk and close it, letting everything move freely while driving. Meanwhile, the car already has built-in hooks on both sides of the trunk to secure items in place, but they're rarely used. All you need to do is hang the bag handles on the hooks. The weight is then supported vertically, keeping everything in place. When you brake or take a corner, the bags stay upright and don't tip over. If you don't use them, you'll keep running into the same problem. But once you take advantage of this simple design, you can almost eliminate the risk with a small action. 17. Adjusting the windshield washer nozzles with a pin. There's a small issue that happens on many cars. The washer fluid doesn't spray where it should. Sometimes it sprays too high and goes over the windshield. Other times it sprays too low onto the hood. Many people think this needs a trip to the shop, but there's actually a simple fix that most don't know about. The washer nozzles are designed to be adjusted manually. You just need a small pin, or even the tip of a paper clip, insert it gently into the nozzle, and adjust the angle to where you want the spray to go. It takes only a few seconds to get the spray hitting the right spot on the windshield. It sounds simple, but if you don't fix it, it can cause a lot of inconvenience. When the windshield is dirty and the fluid doesn't cover the right area, the wipers end up dragging dirt across the surface. This can leave streaks and reduce visibility, especially at night or in the rain. Over time, it can also wear out the wiper blades faster because they're working under less effective conditions. Many drivers who try this are surprised at how much it improves their driving experience. Instead of spending time and money at a shop, a quick adjustment solves the problem. 18. Battery saver mode. This is something many people experience but completely misunderstand. When your car automatically turns off the lights, shuts down the screen, or cuts power after a certain amount of time, the first reaction is often to think there's an electrical problem or that the battery is failing. In reality, this is a built-in feature designed to protect you. After you turn off the engine, the car still allows you to use power for about 10 to 30 minutes for things like interior lights, the infotainment screen, or the windows. Once that time is up, the system automatically shuts off non-essential power to preserve enough energy for the next start. Without this feature, forgetting to turn off a light or leaving the car in accessory mode for too long could drain the battery completely. Then, not only would the car fail to start, but the battery's lifespan would also drop quickly. Repeat that a few times, and you'll end up replacing the battery much sooner than expected. What's important is that many people think the car cutting power by itself is a fault, when in fact it's quietly saving them from an expensive problem. This is the kind of feature that, if you don't understand it, could end up costing you a few $100s. A small action can completely change how you use your car every day. Instead of relying on memory and accepting the risks, you can let the car handle things for you. Features like these don't make the car more powerful, but they help you avoid common mistakes that happen in real-world use. Have you been using all the features your car already has? The dealership quoted you $1,000 to replace your headlights. Meanwhile, a mechanic in Munich spent just $6.28 to make a 16-year-old set of yellowed headlights look brand new again. Today, you are going to find out exactly how he did it. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. The soda can in the garage. You open a can of Coca-Cola, pour it over a set of headlights that have turned yellow after years of facing the elements, and sit around waiting for a full hour because you believe the acid in the soda will eat away the oxidation. The measured result on an older model Mazda 3 after soaking is that the headlight clarity only improved from 61% to 65%. 4%. 1 hour sitting out in a hot garage, a wasted can of Coke, and a set of headlights that look almost identical to when you started. The concentration of phosphoric acid in Coca-Cola is far too low to handle anything beyond the surface road grime and dirt sitting on top. Meanwhile, what makes headlights foggy is not dirt, but an oxidation process occurring inside the molecular structure of the polycarbonate plastic after years of continuous UV exposure. You are trying to fight a molecular-level chemical reaction with a beverage, and the only outcome is wasted time while the headlights remain cloudy. The part that makes many people still believe in this trick is that after wiping the Coke away and drying it off, the lens surface looks a bit brighter under daytime sunlight. But that 4% improvement is completely meaningless when you drive at night and need your headlights to cut through 200 feet of darkness ahead. At that moment, you will realize your visibility is no different than before you poured the can of Coke. And while you are sitting out in the garage waiting for the Coke to soak in, the headlights continue to be ruined deeper by UV rays every day because you have not treated them properly. 2. The bottle of oil used car dealers keep secret. Before a scheduled viewing with a potential buyer, professional used car dealers in the US have a trick they pass around but never tell the buyer. They spray WD-40 onto the headlights, wipe them down with a dry towel, and within seconds, the cloudy lenses suddenly look so bright and shiny that the car shopper never suspects a thing. On a Honda Accord, the clarity instantly jumps from 28% to 71%, enough to make anyone looking at it think the headlights are still in great shape. But after 22 hours to 3 days, the entire layer of oil evaporates and the headlights return to their exact original foggy state, or even look worse than before. WD-40 does not restore anything. It only temporarily fills millions of microscopic cracks on the degraded plastic surface, creating a fake, smooth layer that lets light pass through more easily for a few short days. Once the oil completely evaporates, the exposed cracks reappear, and the headlights get just as cloudy as they used to be. Even worse, the leftover oil residue on the surface acts like a sticky glue that attracts road dust, making the headlights dirtier and cloudier after about a week than they were before the spray. If you were looking at a used car and the headlights look unusually shiny for the vehicle's actual age, run your finger gently across the lens surface before deciding on anything. A greasy feel or a faint smell of mineral oil is a sign that someone just did a cosmetic cover-up to make you pull out your wallet without knowing you are buying a set of headlights that will fog up again by next week. The next method costs less than a can of Coke, is many times more effective, and you already have it in your house right now. 3. The white powder in your kitchen. Almost every household in America has a box of baking soda in the kitchen cabinet. When you mix it with water into a thick paste and scrub it onto the headlight surface, the results this time are real, not a temporary illusion like WD-40 or completely useless like Coca-Cola. After 10 minutes of steady scrubbing, the headlights increase from 52% to 63% clarity, an improvement you notice right away with the naked eye when you step back to look. Baking soda belongs to a class of very mild abrasives, so when scrubbed onto the headlights, it shaves away the thinnest, outermost layer of oxidation without scratching the underlying plastic. That is the good news. The bad news is that 63% is still below the threshold that automotive lighting experts rate as safe enough for night driving. After 2 to 3 weeks, the yellow